start on things today with round 2 of the NBA draft, but a special day, and a special day for me. How often can I be in studio with two great friends, one guy who was my partner for a long period of time, and my current partner, Travis Demers, the voice of the Blazers, in studio with us today. The Godfather, Dwight James, is here. What's up, fellas?
What's happening, Chad?
Thanks for waking me up from my sound nap to go on early today, Chad.
This is not on me. This is about the boss. Take up all issues with Rich Moore, all right?
I take it all back.
You know what, Chad? I haven't been on the air aside from yesterday in 2.5 months, so I will take all the time I can get right now.
I know you said you felt rusty last night, but I didn't hear that myself. But like I said, you got a booming voice right now that's well rested, so it's great to have you in here.
The voice is rested. The rest of me, not so much.
All right, here's what I want to do. We'll get an update from Trav in just a moment on the activity that we've seen from the Trailblazers. They've been busy moving items around here in the second round. And, of course, we're wondering what's going to happen with the Lakers coming up and Bronny James. But I want to talk about what we saw yesterday from the Portland Trailblazers, who, before the draft got underway, they got busy. Malcolm Brogdon was moved out to the Washington Wizards in exchange for Deni Avdija. The Blazers also shipped out pick number 14 in yesterday's first round and future draft consideration, including a 2029 first-round pick and a couple of second-round picks in the future. So they get Deni Avdija, 23 years old, 6'9", playmaking forward who can shoot the three at 37%, a plus defender. And then in the draft, Donovan Clingan fell to them at 7. I don't think they expected him to be there, but he was. They were able to get the guy that they wanted. And Dwight, we'll start with you. Just your overall reaction to the night that was for the Trailblazers last night.
Well, first of all, I'm not going to talk about the trade because Joe can't talk about it. So I kind of figure like I can't talk about it either. You know, don't want to do anything wrong here, Chad. But the Clingan pick I love because I'm just looking forward to watching him play. I like to watch young bigs and their development. And I saw him in college. I liked him. I really did. I thought this is a guy who'd be fun to watch. I think he has talent as a shot blocker. They haven't really had a big-time shot blocker in a while. That's always fun to watch. He's good around the basket, and I think there's room for improvement. He has good hands, and he's a good passer. And they'll be able to construct things around that to make him work at the offensive end, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome when you get a rim protector. I think we mentioned it yesterday. The Blazers next to last in the league last year in shots at the rim. Teams converted over 70% of their shots at the rim. And Clingan's strength, if you had to pick one thing that he does better than anything else, he's a good job and does a good job of offensive rebounding. But it's the rim protection. And he brings some physicality there, which is nice.
Yeah, it is. And like I say, it's going to be fun to watch their youngsters develop together. This gives their two young guards, a young center, to, somehow acclimate themselves to each other. And I'd love to see them all in Summer League. I'm not sure we will, but it would be kind of fun.
All right, what's your takeaway on Deni Avdija? Like a lot of people, we haven't watched a lot of Wizards basketball as much as other teams and stuff, but this is a guy at 23 years of age, good size. He can play.
Yeah, he can play. I think he's a starter in the NBA. He is a starter. They spent some draft capital, and they're going to say they got that back in the trades they're making today. I just don't think you can ever get them back, and I think the more you have, the better. I don't value second-round picks an awful lot, but the more you get, the better you can package them up to get a player later on. And they did give up 2 firsts, the one they had this year and then a future one. So I'm not sure about that. For a guy who's, he's going to be a starter for him, I don't know that he's a game changer. I don't know that he's a guy that's going to be a starter on a playoff contending team.
But a young player that can grow with the current core. That's the type of guy they were looking at or that you want them to look at if it's not getting future draft picks, right?
Yeah, he's a young player, but this will be his 5th year in the league, which is, that's a lot of years in the league. And you normally say after 4 years in the league, you have a pretty good idea of what somebody is.
All right, Travis Demers, your takeaway from last night with what the Blazers are able to do in the deal with Washington and then selecting Donovan Clingan at number 7.
Yeah, I'll start with Clingan. I echo a lot of what Dwight said. You got to have some versatility. You've got to have a balanced roster. And it's not just that position made sense for the Blazers. I think he was the best player on the board, right? And if you're in a different position and you're looking for something different, like, you need a shooter, somebody like Dalton Connect, something like that. And I think every team would be very happy to have somebody like Dalton Connect. But I also think he's a luxury type player, that there are times when it makes sense to have him and he can be more impactful to your team.
It's a shame he had to slip to the Lakers, though.
Oh, I'm not sure if you were listening when we talked about it. I was angry because I really like Dalton Connect.
Yeah.
And I was angry that he ended up with the Lakers.
Yeah.
I was happy when Memphis passed up on him on 9 because I really like him and I can't stand Memphis. And they could really have used him. So I was happy. All right, he's not going to Memphis. But then when we kept going, all right, he's going to the Lakers. Would have been nice to see Philadelphia draft him instead. So that was very disappointing. But to get Donovan Clingan, who at the time when the 7th pick was on the table was the best player available in my opinion, who is a fantastic defensive player, very good passer by all accounts, very good rebounder, all things that the Trailblazers really need right now. He's 20 years old. He's shown a lot of growth. He's got an NBA body, too. You know, he's not like some of these guys who are skinny and need to put on some weight to be able to make it in the NBA. He's got an NBA body. And it's certainly going to take him, some time. There's going to be a learning curve with anybody like that. There was a learning curve with Wemby. It wasn't very big, but there was a learning curve with him. But you're in a position where you can allow him to have that learning curve, especially when he doesn't need to step in and be the starter right now. And you don't need him to be in his prime right now. You can take a year or two or whatever it takes to develop him, and I think he will. Is he going to be an all-star? That's not what he projects to be. And you don't need him to be that. You need him to be the anchor of your defense, be able to score around the rim, be able to block shots, be able to rebound, be able to, set up out of passes, make some plays. And I think he can do all of those things at a plus role player type of level. And that's really all that you needed with him. So I was really happy with the pick of Donovan Clingan.
Godfather, what's going to be the biggest adjustment or the hardest adjustment for Clingan that you've seen with bigs when it comes to adjustment from college to the NBA?
Well, it's more physical than they're accustomed to. They're not going to get calls. That's part of any rookie's lifestyle. You won't get a call all season, basically.
You got to earn the respect of the officials.
Especially the bigs, chat. They get no breaks whatsoever. And so he'll have to adjust to that. It's going to be hard. I think he's going to have trouble adjusting to what's going on here. This is a kid who won state titles his last 2 years in high school, won 2 NCAA titles his first 2 years at UConn. Now he's coming to the NBA. He's not going to win all the time. And I would say that even if he was going to a team that's going to win 41 games, it's so much different for these kids coming out of college where they're used to playing, 36 games a year, 40 if you're in the tournament or whatever. You're going to lose. You're going to lose a lot of games. You got to learn that sort of even-tempered thing where you take the losses okay, you don't get too excited about the wins. It's all that stuff that I remember Kareem talking about Magic after the very first game he played. In an exhibition game, they won the game, and Magic jumped up on Kareem like, wow, we got it. It's like, hey, calm down, kid. There's about 100 more games to come this year. So you got to kind of learn that.
But they're in a position for him to learn that, though.
Well, he's got to learn to lose, and he's got to learn plenty about that.
Yeah, he will. Yeah. But the other thing about that is that his teammates are already learning to lose.
Yeah.
So you have to find some winning in there, too. So to have somebody who does have a history of winning when you don't have a lot of guys like that.
Well, you hope that rubs off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you hope some of that competitive. He's a very competitive guy. That's what I love about him, too. But also, Chauncey Billups, the way that he handled the team, behind the scenes through losing last year, seeing the way that they were able to keep their spirits up late in the season and compete when a lot of teams would have just quit. I think that was an underrated part of his coaching ability last year because, with the exception of, Miami, there was an awful game, but that long road trip, there were some really competitive games down the stretch from a team that was, overmatched every single night except for when they played, Washington and Charlotte. And they were mentally competitive, and I thought that was really impressive.
Yeah, I think that's easier to do when you have a lot of young players still trying to make their mark in the league.
And that's
still
what next year will be.
That thing. Yeah, for sure.
All right, you talked to Cronin about the adjustment of going from a winner, winning multiple championships, to adjusting to a team that's in a rebuild mode. What were his thoughts on how you massage a player like that into the league?
Yeah, massage. Yeah, Chad, he's very cognizant of that. And he talked about preparing him and talking to him throughout the season, but even before the season, and explaining, look, here's what you're going to be facing. You guys are going to be, and I'm putting my words to this now. They're going to be underdogs every night they go out to play almost every game. So you got to understand the situation you're in and the fact that you're a piece of the future, and we're trying to build a winning culture and a winning team all at the same time. And you're a big part of that. So you have to make him aware of that and make sure that he understands how important he is moving forward in building that culture that they want to have.
All right, Trav, you share your thoughts on Clingan. What about Deni Avdija?
So here's the thing about Deni Avdija. I would imagine that 99% of the people listening to this show right now probably have seen him play once or twice at most, and probably didn't know how to pronounce his name until yesterday. And it's not a knock on anyone's basketball acumen. It's not a knock on anybody's intelligence. Why would you watch the Washington Wizards except for when your team is playing against them in any situation that you don't have to? Not only have they been bad and losing games, they've also been one of the most unwatchable teams in the NBA the last couple of years for a variety of reasons, right? So they're a bad team. And I was talking with my buddy Steve today, and he said, his concern was that Avdija put up good numbers in a bad team. Right? Well, he's not a volume guy, right? You look at the percentages, and to me, I look at the percent in that kind of situation. I look at percentages more than the points per game. When you're a go-to guy in a bad team, your numbers are going to be inflated. Look at Delano Banton last year. His usage was up, all of those things.
Yeah.
So he shot better than 50% last year, and he shot 37% from three. Okay, those are good numbers. The points, 7+ rebounds a night, 4 assists, good defensive player. He's 6'9". He's athletic. From everything that I have seen and read about him, he's also a very smart guy and a good teammate. And it's interesting when I see this stuff because I love this. You go back to the 2020 draft, and Mike Schmitz loved the pick of Deni Avdija. So you know whose handprints were all over this, right? And we have not seen him maximize his potential. Part of that, and again, this is just based on stuff that I've been reading because I just don't have enough firsthand experience.
Sure.
I've called a few games that he's played in. I've seen a few games that he's played in, but I haven't seen enough of a sample myself to see it. But the take on him is that he struggled early in his career because they expected him to be a 3-and-D guy. And that's not what he is. He is not a park outside the arc, take 3-point shots. Where his role fits better is being a secondary or tertiary playmaker. He's a slasher. He can get to the rim. He's athletic. He's a great finisher around the rim and a very good 3-point shooter. The holes in his game right now are shooting in the mid-range. And for a guy that can hit threes and he can score in the paint, that's what the NBA is right now anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
You have some guys who can make shots in the mid-range. DeAndre Ayton is a phenomenal mid-range shooter. Scoot Henderson is going to be a phenomenal mid-range shooter. He's already a very good mid-range shooter. You could look at percentages with some things with Scoot, but looking at him getting to his spots and taking shots where he was in October, November, December to where he was in March and April, there was a dramatic difference in his ability to get to his spots. So I think Scoot will end up being a very good mid-range shooter. So you don't need him to be that guy. I think he's probably your starting small forward day one. And Dwight, I'm with you. I don't think he's going to be a superstar. I don't think he has superstar potential. I don't think he has all-star potential. But you don't need him to be that either, because the hope is that Shaedon Sharpe does. The hope is that Scoot Henderson does. The hope is that whoever you draft in next year's draft does. And that next year's draft, whether you get Cooper Flagg, Race Bailey, or one of these other guys, that they are a generational type player. They are your superstar. They are your leader. You don't have to have 5 of those on your team. So, again, we don't know what's going to happen there, right? They might end up getting the 8th pick next year. Cross your fingers it doesn't happen. But if they don't get that guy, they have a long way to go anyway. So, in the perfect world, you get that guy next year. You have your point guard, and I think Scoot is going to be a very good point guard. He's got to cut down on the turnovers, make some mistakes. He has to be a better finisher around the rim. But Scoot is never going to be a 25-point-a-night guy. I think he's probably more like a 17-9 type of guy. Maybe maybe a 15-10 or an 18-8 type of guy. I'm good with that with my point guard. And then you've got Shaedon Sharpe. Now you bring in Deni Avdija, and he can make a three, get to the rim, play good defense. He is a good wingspan. He's athletic and long. And now you also have Toumani Camara, who is very similar in that regard, but he's a much better defender. You need his shot to come along a little bit. So you've got all of these things. If Donovan Clingan is your center of the future, you have got the foundation of a complete team with your starting five and a very well-balanced team, because now you have length. And okay, Shaedon Sharpe's not a great defender, right? Scoot Henderson is going to be a very good defender. Deni Avdija is a good defender. Donovan Clingan is going to be a good defender. Toumani Camara is a good defender. And then whatever you get next year. You have the ability now in the framework and the plan of putting together a long, athletic, young, energetic, well-balanced team. Look at the Thunder. What have they done? So I think the plan and the direction now is absolutely there. And I don't think they gave up too much to go get Deni Avdija either.
Godfather, you spoke with Cronin last night. Do you get the sense that he was pleased with how things played out?
Oh, yeah. They were very happy with their day one. What I respect from Joe is he freely admits they still have a lot of work to do. And I think that's the stance you have to take, because they do. You know, they still have a lot to – and like, I respect what Trav is saying, but by the same token, those guys you mentioned have all got to make big improvement, because from where they are now, and we're talking about the two guards, where they are now, boy, they have to get to another level to become that kind of contending team. Now, it looks like they have the potential to do that, but you got to have your fingers crossed. You know, you got to hope for the best out of both of them. You got to hope they both develop to their peak potential.
You talk about Scoot and Sharpe?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're right. You're absolutely right about that. Those guys could turn into all-stars, and they could also turn into journeymen.
Yeah.
We don't know the answer to that.
Right.
And that's
it's
where
just too soon.
Yeah, that's where you have to trust the character of these guys and trust the work ethic. I trust the work ethic of Scoot Henderson. What I have seen from him, I'm not saying he has Dame-level work ethic, because that's something you have to learn and figure out over years. But for a 19-year-old kid that turned 20 during the season and is very young, his attitude and his work ethic is exactly what I would want somebody to be like from him. And the way that he carries himself, he is so respectful to the people around him, and he respects his coaches. Okay, why does that matter? It matters because it's an example of what makes him coachable, and he needs to be coachable right now. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen that from Shaedon Sharpe. It doesn't mean that it's there. I'm obviously not at every practice. I do get to see practices. I do get to see how he carries himself. He's also relying a lot on his athletic ability, which can be scary at times. The work ethic has to come with it. I just personally haven't seen it. That doesn't mean that it's not there. So I don't have that firsthand confidence that Shaedon Sharpe is going to be able to do what I think Scoot Henderson is going to do. By all accounts, Donovan Clingan is that kind of guy. Again, I don't have any firsthand experience with that. So you have to be able to trust that these guys are going to do that. And if they don't, their teammates are going to get on them to be like that and lead by example. And then your coaching staff. I do think Chauncey Billups is the right guy in the context of motivating his young guys to work based on what I have seen. It's just a matter of what are these other guys going to do, and what does the rest of the coaching staff do? Because those are just answers we don't have.
You know, Jack and Travis, what I understand exactly what you're saying. Just because you're not seeing all what's going on behind the scenes doesn't mean it's
right.
not there. I mean, it very well could be, but none of us get the opportunity to see these guys all the time.
Right.
And it's just a fact. My skepticism is based on a lot of athletic guys like Shaedon Sharpe I've seen come into the league. Some of them hit, and some of them just never do. And then you get Jerome Kersey coming in, tremendous athletic ability, but not a great deal of basketball skill when he came in. He made himself into an indispensable part of that team, you know, and that's what a guy can do if he decides he wants to work that hard.
That's what any team has to do in this position. And some teams do, some teams don't. You just hope that this team does.
All right, early start to the Rip City Drive. Travis Demers, voice of the Trailblazers, in studio with Dwight and I today, which is nice. When we come back, Trav will give us an update on the second-round action with the Trailblazers. And then, of course, we're going to react to the Lakers pick if they take Bronny when that goes down. We have a lot more thoughts on Avdija, on Clingan. And if you want to jump in and share your thoughts on how day one of the draft went, 503-248-0620. You've got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Travis Demers in studio with us today as we break down round one of the draft. And, of course, round two, which is ongoing right now. We'll get an update on round two in just a moment. But, Godfather, you were talking about work ethic when it comes to players. And, of course, we need to see great growth and development in both Scoot and Shaden. But where does that work ethic come from? Is that innate? Is it something you're born with? Does it come from coaches, veteran teammates? How do guys learn how to work or do the type of work that's necessary to be a solid pro?
You know, Chad, my experience teaches me that it could come from all those sources. It could be that you're inspired by a coach. I remember talking to Zach Randolph, and I said, where did you learn all those post moves? Freshman year of high school. He had he told me the guy's name and everything. He had a freshman basketball coach that took the time to pull him aside, teach him all these moves. He never forgot him. He was a terrific post player the rest of his career.
His footwork was tremendous.
Oh, it was impeccable.
And he needed it because he wasn't the most athletic big man, right?
He's exactly. And the guys that are not as athletic, they learn better because they have to. You know, they have to do that to survive. How else was he going to survive? He's not going to run up and down the floor and dunk on people. You know, he could dunk, sure, but he wasn't that high flyer. So he had to learn how to play. And then as he had that post game, people started covering that. He moved out, became a good medium-range shooter, too. But he added all that stuff into his game. And, you know, whereas Clyde came into the league, and I love Clyde, but he had relied on athletic ability so much, he was not a great shooter. He had to learn that. And when he came, people remember, you know, that line drive jump shot of his wasn't all that reliable.
Yeah.
But he became a good shooter because he got in the gym. He had coaches who cared, and he understood the value of that, and so he learned.
And he became a pretty effective shooter.
He did.
With the line drive.
Right. It was a line drive.
Line drive back up the middle.
So, Trav, we were curious after last night how the Blazers would approach round two with a full roster, and we've gotten our answer so far.
We do. So the Blazers had pick number 34 and pick number 40. With pick number 34, they drafted Tyler Kolek out of Marquette, the left-handed point guard. They then traded that pick to the New York Knicks for 3 future second-round picks. So they got the 2 second-round picks, not the exact ones, but 2 second-round picks that they got moved yesterday in the deal for Avdija, plus another one. So they got 3 second-round picks back just for the 34th pick. Then with the 40th pick, they drafted Osasare Ighodaro, who is a big from Marquette. I'm not terribly familiar with him. They then traded that pick to Oklahoma City, which then went to the Knicks and then went to Phoenix. But in return for the number 40 pick, the Blazers got cash and the number 52 pick this year. So the Blazers do still have one more second-round pick this year. That's number 52.
All right, so we'll keep an eye on that. And
hopefully I'm correct on that.
And the Lakers are selecting at what, number 55?
55.
All right. Do you think they're going to take Bronny?
Well, it's interesting. I don't know if you saw this report, but apparently Bronny's agent has been calling to tell teams, if you draft Bronny, he's going to go play in Australia. So it's the Lakers or Australia for Bronny James.
Interesting. You expect the Lakers to take him, Godfather?
Yeah, I do.
All right, one other note here from the NBA. The Sacramento Kings are trading former lottery pick Davion Mitchell and Sasha Vesnikov and the 45th pick in the NBA draft today to the Raptors in exchange for Jalen McDaniels. That according to Woj.
Okay, well, I know that the Kings have been looking to move Davion Mitchell for a while. There was a lot of talk last year that he was going to get moved last summer. And Sasha Vezenkov he just didn't play much. He was not happy at all with his role coming over from overseas last year as an older rookie. And then Jalen McDaniels, the brother of Jaden McDaniels, he's not his brother. His brother is a top-notch lockdown defender, and we saw some of the things he could do offensively. Jalen is not quite Jaden.
All right,
But by the way, if you're gonna have twins, I think they're twins. I'm not sure. Actually, no, they're not. They're a couple of years apart. But if you're gonna have 2 boys and you like the alliteration and you like their names being similar, my boys are like that. But really, Jalen and Jaden,
it's confusing.
That's very confusing.
That deal gets the Kings under the luxury tax and opens up a roster spot. And Trav, one thing you brought up last night, the Blazers for a long time were guard heavy, but with the recent moves that they've made, they've really gotten a lot more versatility to their roster in terms of length and athleticism. They're not guard heavy anymore.
No, if anything, I don't want to say that they have a guard problem now, but you look at the guards that they have: Scoot, Shaden, Ant, Matisse Thybulle, and Delano Banton. And obviously, Tease can play the three, and Sharp can play the three. But those guys they're guards. They are guards for sure. So you don't have the guard problem. Obviously, they moved Malcolm Brogdon yesterday. Now, if you get an injury or two, now you're in real big trouble with the guard spot. So it'll be interesting to see how things play out in terms of trades. Joe Cronin talked about it last night that they're not in a rush to make trades. I'm paraphrasing here. I don't remember exactly what he said, but they're not in a rush to make trades, but they are certainly looking to make the roster better. And also, what do they do with the two-way positions, right? Do they pick up a guard at one of the two-way positions like they had with, Skylar Mays or Ashton Hagans last year?
And they got two spots open for two ways, right?
Three. There are 3 two-ways. Now, Did they officially announce if they're bringing Ibu Baji back?
I just assume Ibu Baji was already one of the two ways.
Yeah, I would assume. I don't know if it's official or not, but I think it's a pretty safe assumption. They've invested a lot in him over the last couple of years, and the growth from basically an empty canvas to where he is has been pretty fun to watch. And plus, he's just one of the all-time awesomest dudes to be around. I love Ibu Baji. But so you still have 2 other spots now. Do you fill one of those with a guard? I think you have to. And then, what do you do with the other spot? So they are absolutely not guard heavy the way that they were. If anything, they're starting to get a little bit of a log jam and some redundancy at the wing spots.
Godfather, I'm with you, though. Draft grades the day after the draft. It's a bit ridiculous, is it not? Yes. I need some time to know what these guys are going to end up being in the NBA, just like I do the NFL or any other sport.
Well, you have to admit it's just guesswork. You're guessing because the people who drafted them aren't even sure how it's going to work out. But I got one thing to say on naming your kids Jaden and Jalen.
Mm-hmm.
It is better than giving your kids the same name. Was it Evander Holyfield who named
George Foreman?
George Foreman. I knew it was
like
a
7
boxer.
kids named George.
Yeah.
He said the advantages when he said George. Everyone came downstairs for dinner. Yep.
What a classic to give your kids the same exact name.
So my kids have that alliteration, Lincoln and Lawson.
Yeah.
And I slip and call them the wrong thing all the time. So I'll shorten it, right? I'll call Lawson Law or the Law. But I've coached for a number of years. I've coached high school sports, and when I was coaching, there were a couple of guys on the varsity team. When I was coaching JV, they were twins, Nick and Nate. Very confusing. And then when I coached freshmen and JV, I had twins on my team, Zeke and Zach. And they eventually, obviously, when you get to know them, you can tell them apart. And I love that. I love both those families. But Zeke and Zach, very close together, and they look very similar. Like, come on, you're killing me here. First couple of days of practice, like, you in the orange shirt.
Yeah.
That's the way it's got to be. All right, Travis Demers, Dwight Jaynes. It's the early edition of the Rip City Drive. We kicked things off early today with round 2 of the NBA draft. And, of course, the Lakers picking at 55. We assume it's going to be Bronny James, but we'll react to that when it goes down. The Trailblazers able to get Deni Avdija yesterday in a trade involving Malcolm Brogdon, and then Donovan Clingan fell to them at number 7, and the Blazers very happy about that. So the Blazers now will prepare for free agency, which kicks off, Saturday?
Sunday at 3 p.m.
Sunday at 3 p.m. What do you think is the next step for Cronin, Godfather, as they enter into free agency? Is this the period where you look to see what deals might be available to further consolidate and move some of the vets? What do you think the focus will be for him as they enter into free agency?
Yeah, I think he's always attentive to all those kind of situations. They are going to consolidate. There's no question about it. I think it's the time to do that. So until they do, we're not going to know exactly what piece might fit, what they might be looking for. But maybe you look for the piece first, and then you consolidate to fit what you could get. And, we always talk about the Blazers can't get any free agents. Well, in general, that means they can't get any of the premier free agents. But they can get the more moderately priced guys, the mid-level type guys they can get those guys. So you have to be aware.
So it's interesting now with the roster having 15 players on it. Like Dwight said, where are they going to go? Because of those 15, assuming they sign and guarantee Donovan Clingan, I don't know why they wouldn't. I just kicked my bare toe out of this pole right here. That was fun. They have 2 players who are not on guaranteed deals for the season. That's Delano Banton, whose deal becomes guaranteed, I think, in January, and Jabari Walker, whose deal becomes guaranteed in July. So if you want to go sign a free agent, you're going to have to decide on one or both of those guys who you are not going to guarantee. The other part of that, too, is if you have an unbalanced trade of some kind where you get 2 back for 1, which if they're going to make a trade, I would imagine it would be some kind of an unbalanced trade. You have to do that as well. Because they are under the cap now or under the luxury tax now, you might see a scenario, and I'm not expecting it, but now it opens up the availability to buy somebody out, to waive somebody and eat the rest of their salary if it's a small number. Last year they couldn't do that because that was going to put them up into a tax situation. So that's something there that you could also consider. But when you talk about these 2-for-1 trades, and let's say you're throwing out let's use Phoenix, for example, right? Okay. Let's say there's somebody on Phoenix that the Suns really want one of your players. Again, I'm just throwing out a name. Let's say it's Robert Williams III, and they offer you 2 or 3 players for him. They can't do that because they're up over that second apron. They can't aggregate salaries now. So that changes who can trade for your guys. So anybody that's up at that big number, they can't aggregate salaries. So they can't say, well, you're sending us $25 million in salary. We're going to send you a 10, a 10, and a 5 to make that work. They can't do that. So it'll be interesting to see how that's all navigated this year, because the teams that the only way that they can get better is by trade because they are, well over the cap, they can't do unbalanced trades anymore.
Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't expect the Blazers to be big players in free agency.
No.
But the trade market, yes, potentially.
Sure.
I would not be surprised if they don't sign anybody.
I agree.
In free agency.
Yeah.
They don't have an open roster spot. They don't have to sign anybody, not even a minimum contract guy.
Yeah. So what is the ultimate goal? It's not about signing free agents to add better pieces to the team.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. But you're looking for opportunities to where maybe you can find the right deal and move out one of the veterans to where you either bring back picks, hopefully for next year, future picks, or young players like we saw with Avdija. That type of scenario, right? It's either picks or young players.
Well, obviously, if you can get a first-round pick next year, that would be the ultimate goal. And nobody's trading those. But you start talking about a package including talented players. I mean, there are some teams that, you start talking about Jeremy Grant. You got, okay, here's Jeremy Grant. And then how about Anthony Simons too? Well, that's a big package. But if you can get a good lottery pick for something like that, which you probably still can't get, but, you got to find a team that can take those guys.
Yeah,
but
most picks are going to be lottery protected anyway. But here, the thing too, Dwight, is that somebody who is trading for Jeremy Grant, maybe not necessarily Ant, but Jeremy Grant or Robert Williams or Matisse Thybulle, those are going to be teams that are playoff teams that believe they're a piece or two away. Is there a team out there believes that they are one solid defender away from winning a championship?
There's probably multiple teams like that.
Right. Well, you have a guy that is that guy in Matisse Thybulle, and I'm not advocating that they trade Matisse. I'm just using that as an example. So is there a team that believes they're in that position that has their draft pick that says, we will give you our 2025 pick because we believe we're going to win a championship with this guy? I think that's the only way that a team is going to be willing to give up their 2025 pick. But again, if you're in that boat, it's going to be the 23rd pick, the 27th pick, somewhere like that.
Yeah, but don't forget, there's teams that lie to themselves all the time and think they're going to be in that
Oh, I
picture.
love those teams.
Huh?
I love those teams.
Yeah, well, the Lakers have been a team like that.
Yeah, I love
They
when that
expect every year they're going to be right in the thick of it.
Yeah, but that has not worked out to our advantage because the Lakers don't trade with the Blazers.
But what you're doing, what you're talking about is finding a team that is not a legit contender but believes they are,
Yeah.
you make a deal with them, you end up getting a better pick in return.
That's
Houston.
what I'm saying. You're not going to get one of the bottom feeders to trade you next year's pick. That's what they're all trying to get. But there are teams on the bubble of getting there. Those are the teams you take a chance on. Hey, if you don't hit it, it's still going to be probably 17, 18, 19 pick, which you can still get a good player. And don't forget, next year's a top-heavy draft, which pushes all the other guys down a notch.
Mhm.
It's the same thing as the Wembanyama draft, where, yeah, you didn't get the number 1, 2, or 3 pick, but all of a sudden the number 3 pick to Portland is a guy who would have been number 1 in a lot of other years.
Exactly. And like last year, we heard about this during the draft, that Chris Murray probably would have been a borderline lottery pick in most other drafts, but the Blazers got him at 24.
Yeah.
This year, Chris Murray probably would have been a lottery pick if it was this year's
Oh, yeah.
draft.
Probably would have.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's to your point, Dwight, is that next year, because there are so many expected great players
People
at
are
the top
talking
of the
4 or
draft.
5 guys, right, Travis?
Yeah. I mean, I've heard some people say you've got 3 generational guys. I've heard some people say 4 or 5
Yeah.
generational guys. So
Still
that
a little early to tell.
yeah, of course. So if you're sitting at 10 next year is like 2 this year.
Yeah.
And it makes a huge difference. So when the Blazers and these other teams are looking at next year's draft pick of where they're going to be, it falling to 7 this year obviously worked out pretty good. Falling to 7 next year is a problem.
You know, Trav, it's amazing, but you listed off the teams last night. If you look at the group that Portland's going to be competing with for draft position next year,
Yep.
there's like one team in the Western Conference. I think it was Utah, right?
Would you agree with that, Dwight, that Utah is in that, believes they are in that position?
Yeah, they'd like to believe that. Yeah. I don't know. Everybody's always told me the word around the league is don't make a trade with Danny Ainge.
Yeah.
Because he knows something you don't know, and you're gonna get skinned.
So the teams that are
Right.
competing to be in prime lottery position next year in the West, San Antonio is going to be improved, Memphis,
Yep.
and Houston.
Yep.
Utah and Portland are the only 2 teams that are in that mix to really go all out to improve their draft position for next year. But in the
I
Eastern
believe
Conference,
that's true, yes.
in the Eastern Conference is a totally different ballgame. There are multiple teams.
Yeah, Atlanta is getting there. Brooklyn now, obviously.
Yep.
Detroit, Washington, Charlotte.
Toronto. That's 6 teams.
Yeah, so you're looking at 8 teams, almost a third of the league are going to be vying for top 3 draft positioning next year. Doesn't have to be 1, doesn't have to be 2 in that top 3, and I think you're still in pretty good position at 4 or 5. But that being said, Chad, and we talked about this yesterday briefly, is that if you're in the West and you're in that spot, you have a much tougher schedule because there's only one other team in your conference that you play 3 or 4 times. I hope that the Blazers and Jazz next year, oh, no, they're in the same division. It won't matter. They'll play each other 4 times. But those teams in the East, they're going to get some wins against each other.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of cannibalizing each other. So you want to see those teams win as many games as they can.
Godfather, you're right. It's going to be a mad dash for the Cooper Flag sweepstakes next year.
Yeah, we're not even talking yet about those teams that figure they're going for it next year, but they get 2 months into the season and say, we're not going to make it. We got 2 guys
Memphis
out for the
last year.
season. Exactly. All of a sudden, they're in the tank. Blazers, the 1 year, they thought they were going for it too. So many injuries. What's the point?
All right, we'll keep things rolling. Rip City Drive. Travis Demers in studio the entire show today, which is great. Dwight is here. If you want to share your thoughts on round 1 for Portland last night with Clingan and the trade for Avdija, 503-248-0620. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, I hope you're feeling sexy. I'm feeling sexy right now. Rip City Drive, Dwight James, Travis Demers is in studio up until 6 o'clock as we break down round 1 of the NBA draft and, of course, everything going on in round number 2. But, Godfather, real quick, you just sent me this message, and we've talked about this. This sent out by Andrew Brandt. The verdict is in. The NFL liable in the Sunday ticket class action lawsuit. Plaintiffs awarded more than $4 billion in damages to be trebled to over $12 billion. My sense is NFL will now appeal. 1, judging case arguing award excessive. 2nd, Ninth Circuit, and if still losing, 3, the Supreme Court. And from what I heard, I think it was Mike Florio, the NFL obviously is going to continue to appeal this, and they want it to go all the way up to the Supreme Court. They believe that with a more conservative Supreme Court, that they might be likely to favor or rule in favor of big business. So that's going to be their big hope. Now, for me, as an individual and a big football fan, I've been paying out of the backside for NFL ticket now for a lot of years.
Yeah.
It would be nice to get some paybacks for the overcharging that the NFL has done. And really what they did is they colluded here. What they wanted to do is create a price with Sunday ticket that was to the point where most people would say, I'm good, I don't need that. And the reason why they would do that is people don't buy it, and they're stuck at home in their regional coverage watching Fox or CBS, any of the NFL partners. And they do that because it boosts ratings instead of people watching on NFL ticket. Now, the NFL is claiming they did nothing of the such, but I love the NFL, and I'm a huge football fan, but I also know they lie all the time for gain. And they did that in the situation with the head trauma and the true data that was coming out in regard to head injuries. So this is amazing to me. I expect the appeal, but this is a good sign for the plaintiffs in the case. The good news here, and this is really what I want, to make it available at a better cost for all football fans. That's the ultimate hope here with this class action lawsuit.
Yeah, and, you know, it's an antitrust case, which means it's very likely the judgment would triple, and that would bring it up to like $14 billion. Billion dollars.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, Joe Pompliano says, and he's been all over this, just like Andrew Brandt. He says that every household would be in line to collect thousands of dollars if this really is settled.
Yeah.
Now, like, Chad, when you start talking about appealing all the way to the to the Supreme Court, that takes years and years.
Yeah.
And they'll stall it out as long as they can,
of course.
I'm sure.
And they got the money to do it. They got a lot of power.
Yeah.
All right, Travis Demers, voice of the Trailblazers. Great to have you in studio, buddy. Had a lot of fun
Thanks
with
for
you last
having
night.
me, man. You know what, Chad? I loved it, and I really needed it. I really needed to get back on the air with you guys.
No, it's great, man. I had a fun time with Francis Williams last night, and now we have a chance to talk about the draft, and we're doing so with extended coverage, which is nice. So let's go ahead and start with this, and we'll keep you up to date on all the different things that are going on in round number 2. But I want to reset the show just a little bit, and Trav, we'll start with you. Your quick takes on Donovan Clingan, picked at number 7 by the Trailblazers, the center for UConn, and then they made the trade before the draft, sending out Malcolm Brogdon in exchange for Deni Avdija.
Yes, first with Clingan, I think it was the best possible scenario. I think if they had the 3rd pick, they would have taken Clingan. I don't know if they would have taken him over Sarr, if they would have taken over Risache. I personally would have taken him over Risache. I don't know about Sarr. And Joe Cronin even said as much last night. Hey, we're not going to talk about, where he was in our draft board. We don't want to knock anybody, which tells me that he might have not been their number 1 guy, which is fine. But he was way up there. So I think it was the perfect spot for him, considering all the things that he can do, and he doesn't need to step in and be a starter. There is minimal pressure on him right away because you've got DeAndre Ayton sitting in front of him. So I think it was the best case scenario. In terms of Avdija, I don't believe you gave up a ton for him. We can get into why at some point if you'd like to, but I don't think they gave up a ton for him, for a guy who has shown growth in every single year. Now that last year was the first time that he was really put in a good position for what he can do after, they made a coaching change and brought in Keefe. And he's a 23-year-old on an incredible contract, a descending contract that's worth $11 million in year 4. 6'9", athletic, defensive, scores at the rim, can pass, can rebound. Not a great mid-range shooter, but can shoot from three. And I think all of those skills for a guy who is not going to be an all-star, but is going to be a high-end role player for you, I really like the move.
All right, Godfather. You were out at the practice facility last night. You had a chance to speak with Cronin. Your overall take on round one?
Well, I think it was very successful because they got the guy they wanted. And when you get the guy you want at number 7,
You feel pretty good?
yeah, it's got to make you feel pretty good. As you're sitting there watching other teams, and I wanted to ask him, what kind of intel did you guys have about who those guys were going to? Because sometimes they're going to take so-and-so, they love him. Scouts talk back and forth a lot to each other. But they're sitting in that room, and until those teams make their picks, you just don't know if you're going to get your guy or not. This is a guy they wanted last year. So, I think in this point, to get him, look, this team hasn't had a lot of luck with the ping pong balls over the years, not just lately. And so to get the guy you want is a big deal, and I'm sure they were all very happy in that draft room.
That's awesome. The Trailblazers, with a successful night. I think it was a home run for Cronin and company last night. And day 2 so far, Trav, just a lot of transactional stuff for the Trailblazers. I guess the good news is able to recoup some of those second-round picks they shipped out yesterday.
Yeah, I am trying to get a confirmation on whether or not that 52nd pick was the Blazers. Hold on. I'm texting while we're on the air. That's great. Okay, so the 34th pick, they traded, again, proposed. All these things are proposed. They traded the 34th pick to the Knicks in exchange for 3 future second-round picks, and they traded the 40th pick to, I think it ended up with Oklahoma City. Or no, Phoenix. Went to Oklahoma City and then Phoenix. And they got back reportedly some cash and 52 in this draft, but I haven't been able to confirm that 52 is going back to the Blazers. 52 was just picked by the Warriors, and that was Quentin Post, a 7-foot center out of Boston College who averaged 17, 8, and 3 last year. And I don't know on how many attempts, but he shot 43% from 3. ACC all-defensive team, all that stuff. So, went back to Golden State. So, no, that is not the Blazers pick. So, no picks in the second round for the Blazers, which, considering their roster is maxed out, I thought maybe they would have used one of these picks for a guy that they would convert to a 2-way contract, but it doesn't look like that's the case.
All right, the big news right now, the Lakers are on the clock at number 55.
Oh, finally.
2 minutes and 43 seconds and counting, and we'll see who the pick's going to be. It's got to be Bronny James, right?
I think everybody believes that. If it's not, it's going to be a shocker.
I would kind of like to see what happens if it doesn't.
Yeah.
Just 'cause there's been no drama today, and there really hasn't been. I think that the biggest piece of drama yesterday was waiting to see who the Hornets were going to draft at 6. And once they went with Salon, I saw you, and I gave a big fist bump like, yes, we're getting Clingan. That was the biggest piece of drama yesterday.
Yeah.
So now, I want to see some drama. I want to see the Lakers go with, somebody that we've never heard of before. Now, according to the big board on ESPN on TV right now that we're watching, they have Bronny James as the 5th best player available right now. There are 4 picks left in the draft because there's only 58 this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about ESPN and their close relationship with LeBron James. They had Bronny ranked as the 25th best player available today when the second round the second round started.
25th best player out of the Pac-12, baby.
Yeah, exactly. So he didn't belong there, but they're trying to cushion this a little bit. They're all clapping at the Laker draft headquarters.
It's kind of interesting though because he said he wasn't going to take a 2-way contract.
Yeah.
You're wasting a roster spot on somebody who right now does not deserve to be on a full-time contract in the NBA because he's LeBron James' kid. Now you could look at the Antetokounmpo brothers, some other situations maybe a little closer to home that I won't reference, but it's not unprecedented.
Shams is reporting it's going to be Bronny.
Did Shaq just say no?
No, it's going to be Bronny. That's what
Okay.
Shams is reporting. So Bronny James is going to go to the Lakers.
Big shot.
Shocking.
And he's willing to go down and play in the G League. He has no issue with that. The whole objective here was to make sure that wherever he went, that he got the contract.
Yeah, he doesn't care about playing in the G League. He'll go down to the G League. He just does not want that two-way distinction where he can only play 50 games and gets like a $400,000 salary instead of, I don't know. What I'm interested in
because of course he's going to play 50 games.
Second-round picks in this spot sometimes get a 2 or 3 guaranteed deal worth like $2, $3, $4 million, not the league minimum, things like that. And it usually comes out of the mid-level exception. I don't think that's the rule anymore.
Well, God knows he needs the money.
They're about to make it official. Yep. Bronny James going to the Lakers at number 55. Now, Dwight, we've talked about this. I really like Bronny, the way he carries himself, the way he's communicated in interview situations. I think he's a guy that works hard. I think he's got potential to be a good defender. I don't think he asked for all of this firestorm that's going on around him. I think that was brought on by his pops. So I'm actually pulling for Bronny because I want to see him elevate above the nonsense and establish himself as his own player, whatever that is. That's what I'm pulling for.
Yeah.
But his dad has put him into a firestorm with his comments on social media and then forcing this to go down where now they become the first father-son combo in the NBA to play on a team.
I'm with you in terms of feeling somewhat bad for Bronny, okay? Because you're right. He didn't ask for this. None of this is his fault. But at the same time, it's not like he's doing anything to dispel all of this stuff, right? Like, he still should be in college. He should not be in the NBA. And then to say, I'm not going to accept a two-way contract. If it was any other player.
But that's not him. That's the agent. That's LeBron. That's Clutch saying that he's not going to accept a two-way.
I understand that. But if you want to be taken seriously, you've got to do it the right way. And he's not doing it the right way.
Yeah, but if your dad is LeBron, how do you tell him no? No, I don't want your help. I don't want any part of that.
It can be done. I'm just saying, if you want to be taken seriously and you don't want all this stuff, because you've got to work extra hard to prove yourself in some ways. You have to work less hard to get the opportunity, but you got to work harder to prove yourself because most people are going to expect, well, he's LeBron James' kid. That's why he's getting these opportunities. Yeah, no, this is why I'm going to show you. But for him to do the things that he is doing and allowing his agent to do that, any other player who has the career path and basketball ability and size and numbers that he put up at USC, if they're going to be drafted at all and they come out and say, I'm not taking a two-way deal, guess what? Go play in Australia.
Well, and the thing is, the worst part of the whole thing for him is going to be that locker room he has to live in this year. The skepticism, the cynicism about why he's there and whether he deserves to be there. And the idea, he's taken a guy's roster spot that deserves to be there ahead of him.
You ever see the movie Dazed and Confused?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Okay.
I'm kind of dazed and confused about it, though.
You know the whole paddling thing?
Yeah.
Right? Well, the kid, Mitch, right? His sister says to the seniors, hey, take it easy on my brother. Well, guess what happens when they see him and she's not around? They don't take it easy.
Yeah.
It might be like that for Bronny James. His dad says, hey, take it easy on Bronny. Well, when his back is turned, they ain't taking it easy.
All right, we keep things rolling here. We got a lot, including the emergence of France and how they're taking over the NBA. David Kahn shared some thoughts with the Godfather we'll get to. Also, the biggest adjustment for Clingan coming from UConn and now playing for the Trailblazers, who are in a process of rebuild right now. The challenge is there. If you want to jump on board and share your thoughts on round one of the NBA draft, we'll get to your phone calls, 503-248-0620. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, Travis Demers in studio. Dwight James is here. All right, Godfather. Donovan Clingan went to the Blazers last night at number 7. One of the big challenges for Clingan will be adjusting to his new role in the NBA on a team that's on a different path than the ones he experienced in high school and college, where he won multiple championships. You talked with Cronin about this, but it's a real situation for Clingan in terms of culture, going from winning a championship to now adjusting to a team that's in rebuild mode. So how do you go about preparing a guy for that type of situation?
Well, and you do have to be preparing for it. But Joe did say something about, we hope he brings that winning culture with him too. We don't want him to lose that. And of course, that's always the danger with individual players, is they get beat down by the losing. I mean, just watching games, fans get beaten down by the losing. You can imagine what it's like to be one of the players out there. But I don't think they have that worries with this kid, because he is a competitor, always has been. And I think he's smart enough to see the end game here, which is better days ahead. And that's what he's going to have to keep in mind through the upcoming season, because it's likely not going to be pretty.
And as you pointed out, too, it's not just the losing you're adjusting to, but also as a rookie, learning how to adjust to the physicality, the officiating, which is not going to give him the benefit of the doubt. All of that plays into the adjustment that he's going to have going from UConn to Portland.
Not only that, too, Chad, he's got a lot of improvement left, too, especially with his shooting. He's not a good free throw shooter yet, and they want him to be much better. Bigs get fouled. And to the point where you can't even keep him in the game sometimes late in the game, because it's going to be hack-a-shack all over again. You got to at least get up to 75% usually, and most guys can. He has good hands. There's no reason why he couldn't be a better shooter than he has been. So he has that to work on, and hopefully he's got enough to keep him busy that'll kind of keep his mind off other things.
And, Trav, you pointed out something as well, that last year, in the midst of the losing, Chauncey Billups did a good job of keeping the young guys engaged, and they continued to respond to his voice and played hard for him throughout the entire season.
Yeah, and look, it's really easy to look at the record and say, what are you talking about? And you look at some specific games, and you look at, the 60-point loss to the Miami Heat, which, look, that game was ugly, and you could tell right away that was going to be an ugly game, and you just had the feel of being there. It was going to be an ugly game. And I'm just pulling up some of the last, games of the season, looking here in March. Okay, Denver, close game. Miami was bad. Orlando was a game that you should have won. You had an opportunity at the buzzer to win it, but lost by 1 point on the road. Beat Charlotte, beat Washington. Pelicans was a close game. Warriors was a close game. Rockets was a close game. There were a number of games down the stretch and there were a couple of games too, a couple of the Clippers games where it was a close game, and then the fourth quarter came, and the other team ran away with it. But the competitiveness was there for a team that was severely overmatched almost every single night, right? So I thought Chauncey did a great job of keeping the competitive fire alive for a team that had absolutely nothing to play for and was probably trying to do their best. I don't want to say they were trying to lose, but winning was not a priority.
Yeah, it wasn't. They were focused on other things, and that's going to probably be the same situation this year, along with player development being the top priorities for this team. I want to shift focus for a moment, Godfather. One thing we've seen, and we've talked about this at length on the show, but the international game, we're seeing a lot of players from Europe. Canada's making a tremendous impact. And France took over the show last night, dominating the NBA draft with a number of big-time stars. Francis Williams told Travis and I that keep an eye on Australia, because there's going to be a big pipeline from Australia coming into the NBA here in the near future. I'm impressed with France because they're an ethnically diverse culture. They identify their athletes early, and they get them plugged in, and they develop them so much better than what USA Basketball is doing right now. You had a chance to speak with David Kahn, former GM for the Timberwolves. What's his take on what he's seeing with some of the French impact here in the NBA?
Well, he likes it because he owns he's part owner and operator of a Division II basketball team in Paris right now. And it's very successful. They've built that new arena for the Olympics, but his team will play in it moving forward.
How big is it?
I think it's like 14, 15,000, something like that. Brand
new
new.
arena is nice.
Yeah, for them, I think it's fine. And he, you know, he talks about the development over there, and a lot of people do. I saw Jay Billis talking about it last night. They advance players ahead of their class all the time. They play up. That's called playing up. You play against older people all the way, and you're even playing pro ball sometimes at 15 or 16. Some guys even at 14. But not only that, the way they develop players. Here in the U.S., it's like, okay, all the centers, you go over here at this basket. The guards go over here. The forwards go over here. They all have certain specialty coaches. In Europe, overall, all through Europe, everybody gets the same development. Your bigs get the same sort of treatment that the guards get. And so they become multi-position, multi-dimensional players because of that. That's why a lot of their bigs can shoot threes. And some of their small guys could actually post people up. They have varied skills. Plus, they're playing in a system developed by the academy or the club that they're playing for, so they all know how to play team basketball. It's not just solo development. In the U.S., everybody has a personal coach nowadays, and they play for AAU teams that don't emphasize team basketball. So you're not getting a real sense of team in the U.S. like you are in Europe.
Yeah, these drafts have such a different feel. Like Trav and I were talking about yesterday, when I grew up, I knew the players that were going to be at Duke, at Oklahoma, at Georgetown, all these different schools, because they played multiple years in college. And so you had a chance to follow them in college for multiple years. You grew attachments to them. You followed them. And then when draft day came, you got to see which team they were going to go to, and you could follow them when they hit the NBA. But now that's not the case. You get a lot of one-and-dones and guys making the jump to the league, so you don't develop that attachment. And we don't get a chance to watch these Euro leagues here, so we're not exposed to these players until they come to the NBA. And that's why we didn't have an attachment to Wemby and some of these other guys. But you can tell that the development is there because now they're hitting the NBA and making a difference. And unlike when I was younger, much more prepared for the physicality that you get in the NBA.
Yeah, they've been playing against grown men, people who can rough them up, and they have to take it.
Yeah, Luka being an example.
Yeah, but, you know, the last 2 years, France has just taken over. It's unbelievable to have 2 number ones in a row. And then this year, 2 of the top 7 and 3 of the top 6. Last year, I think it was. Whatever, it's like, yeah, 2 of the top 7 last year and 3 of the top 6 this year.
And they had a couple in the second round today, too.
Yeah, they did. They are churning out some players. And the diversity, you mentioned it, Chad, the diversity in France is very appealing, and they are making that work. They're getting kids involved in basketball no matter where they're from. And so many migrate up from Africa, and those kids love basketball anyway. They develop them better there. And you got to sit up and take notice when one country in Europe is producing that many NBA players. That's a little bit scary.
I totally agree with you on that, Dwight, but there is one thing that has nothing to do with the fact that it's France or wherever it might be. You can't coach a guy to be 7 feet tall. It's 7'3" or 7, however tall Wemby is. So as much credit as they all deserve, because look at the skills. The skills are there, there's no question. Having guys that happen to grow up to be 7 feet tall helps.
That's true, but having a 7'4" guy with skill like Wemby,
exactly.
We just don't see that too often.
Because there are 7-foot people out there who have no business doing anything athletic at all.
Yeah,
Wemby's not that guy.
So really, what it is, they're getting their bigs over in Europe in a position to where they're handling the basketball and doing guard-like things. So as they continue to grow, handling the rock and playing a different brand of basketball is easy for them.
Yeah, and I think it might be easier to get kids involved in basketball over there, especially kids of height, because there's soccer and not a lot else over there. So if they, you know, when you get to be 6'8", 6'9", you're probably too big to be a soccer player. But basketball's there for you. In the U.S., forget about sports. Yeah, and there is volleyball over here that's big, and it is in Europe too. But in this country, there's a lot of other things you can do besides sports. You know, and I think if you're impoverished in Europe, if your family's not wealthy in Europe, man, sports are a big, big deal. Look at all the boxers they're turning out just in England. It's unbelievable now how many of those guys.
You think about that, too, if you're impoverished. Basketball is cheap to play. boxing is not terribly expensive. It's not like those guys are paying for ice time and they're going to the NHL.
Yeah, that's right.
You know.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think about the first draft with 2 days? Do we need a second day? Should they keep it on one day? What's your takeaway on the experience?
I prefer just get it out of the way in one day. I don't think there's a lot. Look, without Bronny today, who would have watched? And we would have watched, but around the country, what kind of ratings would that have had without Bronny being involved?
So what's the motivation, right? Because originally this was supposed to be an evening draft, right? And the debates tonight bumped it up to 1 o'clock Pacific.
That's
right?
correct.
So if this started at 7 o'clock Eastern or 4 o'clock Pacific, is it getting more viewers than it would in the afternoon? No.
I agree.
Really, like the second round of the NBA draft it's not appointment television. The first round certainly is. So is the motivation of this to cut down on the time of the first night? Because you look at what time we got out of there last night, Chad, after the press conference or so, it was about 9:20. Okay, that's 12:20 Eastern. You add another hour and a half, you're looking at getting out of there by 2 a.m. on the East Coast. And I have covered drafts on the East Coast, and it is very late. Is that your motivation? Then fine. But if the motivation is to try and get more viewers for round two, unless you have more players that people know about and care about and that are going to have a bigger impact on the NBA, there is nothing you can do to have it more interesting. I am personally very annoyed that it was on 2 days because usually the draft would be on a Thursday night and it would be all done. Well, this year they made it Wednesday and Thursday, and my son's birthday was yesterday. He turned 4 years old. So I had to, the first day that I've worked in 2 months happened to be me missing my son's fourth birthday, when in a normal year it would have been tonight. So that pissed me off.
First world problems.
Yeah. No question about it.
No, I would say this. When I saw what they wanted to do, it smacks of the NFL. But the NFL's smart. They move their draft around now. NBA have kind of tinkered with that too. I think if you want to do 2 days, make it a festival in some town, do it on a Friday, Saturday, or a Saturday, Sunday, and have, bring out your NBA, their equivalent to where you have the kids playing, shooting shots and all that stuff. Have some players on hand to meet the public. Do something for charity in that town.
That's a good idea.
Make it a big deal.
Started at 3 o'clock Eastern on a Saturday.
Right.
Have it be the whole day.
Celebrate basketball for the whole weekend. Everything's over now. The season's done. Let's have one more weekend where everybody can talk basketball. And move it around so that all cities get it. My goodness.
How often does a fifth-round pick in the NFL contribute year one? Often. It happens all the time.
It happens, yeah.
Of the 28 players picked in the NBA draft in the second round today, how many of those guys are going to become impact players in their career?
Yeah, even the first round.
Yeah. But in a normal year, 5?
Yeah.
Somewhere in that ballpark. So it's hard to get people excited when they don't know who the players are, first of all, unless it's somebody like Bronny James, or they're not going to really be relevant to their teams anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to manufacture interest in that.
I just never got the explanation as to why they were doing it or what the purpose behind the decision was, what they were trying to accomplish.
No, I don't think they ever said, did they? They said, here's what we're doing.
Yeah, same thing with the in-season tournament. I didn't think the league did a good job of explaining how the tournament worked, what it was all about, why they were trying to accomplish it so that you could develop some significance in that. I thought they did a poor job in that because people were asking the question, what is the in-season tournament? They didn't know. And if you don't know, why do you care?
Well, Chad, in that regards, obviously I'm in the middle of it, and I need to understand it. So I had it, crammed into me over and over again to understand it. But the NBA really did make an effort to have people understand it. I think what it was is so many people didn't want to understand it that until it rolled around, people thought it was a bad idea and just didn't pay attention to it, because you looked at any local team's broadcast for weeks leading up to that. The league mandated that you put it in your team's broadcast, your home TV broadcast, of how this works, to push it out to fans, to push it out. And it was It was all over. It was all over ESPN. I can't tell you how many times I saw that video with Richard Jefferson trying to explain it. Every time I turned on ESPN, it was on. They had it on the national broadcasts. I think people just didn't care about it and didn't try to understand it until it was here.
Yeah, all I know is that I kept getting question after question after question in regards to the in-season tournament.
And it was a little confusing because it's not a traditional American thing.
All right, Rip City Drive, Dwight and Chad. We're going to talk a lot more about the NBA draft. We do want to get to some baseball. We got an update on AI, which, by the way, Godfather, you need to stop sending me certain stories because the AI is freaking me out. Yeah, it's scary.
We're not talking about Allen Iverson, are we?
No. But we'll get to Al Michaels.
I do get confused sometimes when I read AI and it looks like Al. And I think, which Al are they talking about? Oh, that's an I and not an L.
But you make a good point, Trav. If you hear AI, anyone in our age bracket, you think Allen Iverson. AI. That's Allen Iverson. That's what you think of.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that. If you want to jump on board, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. We do have a 4-pack of tickets for the Hillsborough Hops that we'll give away coming up at 5 for your chance to sit in the Rip City Radio row. And a quick summary of the second round. The Trailblazers did not select a player. They made moves to recoup some of the second-round picks that they missed out on yesterday. And so, Trav, now I would imagine with those two-way opportunities that they have, you can look to the undrafted group of players and kind of pick and choose who you might want to go after.
That's one place you can go. Sure, you can look.
Where else can you go?
Anywhere where there are players that don't have NBA contracts. It can be a player that was on a two-way deal with another team last year. It could be a player that was in the G League last year. And there is a list of players. And I asked Joe Cronin about this a couple of years ago before the G League team was here when they had to just sign guys at 10-day contracts. And I said, how do you find these guys so quickly if you don't have a G League team? And he said, we've got a list. We've got a list of players that we could be interested in, the break glass in case of emergency scenario. So there are players that are on their radar that are in the G League that don't have NBA contracts, that were on two-way deals with another team last year. You also could sign a player who has been a standard contract NBA guy who is not on one right now, and players can find a way back into the league that way. Like the Blazers last year had Skylar Mays in a full-time deal. They cut him, and he signs a two-way deal with the Lakers.
Wasn't Mo Harkless part of the G League team as well?
He was. He was not on a two-way deal, but he was on the Rip City remix. Yes.
All right. That's Travis Demers. Dwight James is here. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. When we come back, we'll take a look at the Diamond. I think I have a man crush on Aaron Judge. Dwight, he's an animal. He's unbelievable right now. Is he going to hit 60 again?
He might. He is a monster. And we have Travis here. I'll take a break. Travis could talk about him the whole segment, I'm sure. Right?
You're a baseball guy. I want to talk with you about it.
Okay, I'm happy to do that.
All right, so we'll talk Aaron Judge and what is special about him at the plate right now, and we'll take a look at all the division races as we near the All-Star break. And we got a lot more on basketball. You can jump on board 503-248-0620 Rip City Drive here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
Soto off first, the pitch to Judge. Hit in the air to right field and deep. Laureano back, it's gone! 28th home run of the season for Aaron Judge into the right field seats, and he gives the Yankees a 2-1 lead with one swing of the bat.
All right, Godfather, we'll start with you on this. We'll talk a little baseball here. I just want your takeaway on what you're seeing from Aaron Judge. He's got 30 home runs on the year, leads the league in RBIs at 77. I mean, he's having another monster season. What do you think makes him so good at the plate and what he's been able to do?
He's very strong, and he's very quick with the bat. I can tell you he's got great hand-eye coordination. I kind of looked up some stuff. Nobody goes to this. This is StatCast stuff. This is the stuff that's pretty technical. But his barrel percentage per times at the plate is 16.8. So the percentage is 16.8% of the time he walks up to the plate, he hits the ball right on the barrel of the bat, which means he's hitting it very hard. That's at least 3% higher than anybody else in baseball. One other stat, exit velocity. No. Let's not go to that. Yeah, exit velocity, his average is 97.2% off the bat. Okay, that average is 2% higher than anybody else. He hits the ball harder consistently than anybody in baseball. Consequently, a lot of those end up on the other side of the fence.
That's terrific. Aaron Judge on fire. Trav, what's your takeaway? What you're seeing from Judge? He's got a chance to get 60 again.
Yeah, I mean, he's just unbelievable, right? I mean, you talk about all the StatCast analytic stuff. I am in a position now, Chad, where I can just be a baseball fan.
Yeah.
As you get into this phase of your life, you can kind of be choosy about the things that you care about, right? Especially when you have kids and a family and all that stuff. And I can just sit back and be a fan. And I don't nerd out on the baseball stuff the way that I used to. I watch the Yankees as often as I can. I watch baseball as often as I can, but I'm not diving into spin rate and exit velocity and launch angles and things like that. And I don't know if you saw the quote from George Brett about how long the bat stays in the zone and all that. Mm-hmm. Like, I agree with him. I'm kind of old school, but I'm also, I'm also good with change and things like that. I just really enjoy watching him play. And he's so important to the Yankees. There's a reason why he's the Yankees captain. You look at last year, and the Yankees were on a great pace, and then he gets hurt in early June in that series with the Dodgers going up against the wall, and the Yankees just tanked and had a terrible season the rest of the year. Now, obviously, he's hit 30 home runs. They're about halfway through the season. They've played 82 games. They're 52-30. They're one win behind Philadelphia for the best record in the in the major leagues. And that's with losing 8 of their last 10 games. They've struggled, and teams are going to struggle. Philly went through a tough stretch a little bit ago. It's going to happen. I want to see the Yankees win games. So seeing all these home runs and hitting the grand slam, but when you're down, big to the Mets, who have been on fire lately. They're 15-4 in their last 19 games. I would much rather see it happen when they're winning. And as much as I love to see what Aaron Judge is doing, and I'm fascinated by him, I want to see the Yankees win. So the home runs, for me as a Yankee fan right now, they're fun to watch, but they don't mean a whole lot because at the end of the day, I want to see him win the games. Soto has been amazing. Garrett Cole's had a couple of rough starts since he came back. Rodon was off to a great start and has struggled his last couple of times out. Heel had a rough outing his last time out. And I want to see them play well in October rather than June. But you've got to play well in June and July and August to get to October, and they didn't do that last year. He's on pace to hit around 60 homers again. Yeah. And that's great. He's hit 62 home runs. It's the American League record. I think American and National League records are kind of meaningless. It's cool, but it's not the old days. But he could hit 80 home runs, and if the Yankees don't win the World Series or don't make the playoffs or lose in the first round, doesn't mean a whole lot.
All right, let's talk about some of these division races. We'll start with the East, Godfather. Yankees up 1 game on Baltimore. It looks like a 2-team race in the East. How do you see that shaking out?
Yeah, I think it is, and that's probably two of the top 3 or 4 teams in baseball. Those are both excellent teams. I expect the Yankees to win that pennant because Baltimore's had so many injuries to its pitching staff. Their pitching staff is decimated. Not little injuries either. They've had, I think, 3 Tommy John surgeries this season among starting pitchers, which is just and I say it over and over. When you start getting epidemics like that, you better take a look at what your trainers, your pitching coaches, and everybody else is doing with your pitchers. It shouldn't happen that coincidentally to your whole staff.
All right, the AL Central, Cleveland Guardians running away with it. They're 7.5 games up. Stephen Kwan is on fire.
Yeah, I was just about to mention Stephen Kwan. It is so much fun to watch him play and seeing where he came from, because on those teams, he was not with Oregon State, but when he got drafted, he was kind of an afterthought. Yeah. And you look at some of the other guys that either were drafted or have made their debuts, obviously Adley Rutschman and Trevor Larnach and some of these other guys. We thought Caden Grenier might have had an opportunity to make it, but that didn't happen.
Madrigal.
And his career has been, it hasn't been superb.
No.
So to see Kwan outside of Adley be the best player in the major leagues, it is really cool, because he was obviously such a big part of that Oregon State team. It's been fun to watch him play.
All right, in the West, Seattle's leading the division now down to 4.5. They've been struggling on this road trip. The Astros have won 7 straight. Do you think that the recent slide could encourage DePoto to maybe do something before the trade deadline?
I think the closer they get to not winning the division, the more he'll say, I think we'll just hold on to our assets for now. They just seem paralyzed in their front office all the time. I just think they have to make a move this year to show their clubhouse that they're serious about winning something. They didn't do anything last year, and it cost them. And I don't understand what's going on up there, but they've got to go all in one of these years.
All right, in the National League, Phillies way out in front in the East, 8.5 games up on Atlanta. No one's going to challenge them, right?
Right. No, Atlanta's done. They're finished. They're done.
Too many injuries.
Yeah, injuries and just a team-wide batting slump. They lose today, 1-0 to the White Sox. Chris Sale, against his old team, strikes out like 11 guys and can't get a win because the Braves get 4 hits off the miserable White Sox.
But again, just like the Yankees last year with Judge, when you have your offensive leader go down, even though it's one player and it's baseball, it really can change a lot. And with the Acuna injury for them,
but he was off to a horrible start.
Still, he's still their guy.
250 with about 4 home runs.
He's still the reigning MVP.
Yeah.
Dodgers got a complete game shutout from Gavin Stone last night.
Yeah.
They've won 4 straight. They're 8.5 games up in the NL West.
No problem.
And what about the Brewers in the Central? 6 games up on the Cards. They legit?
The Cardinals are really playing better lately. They are making a run. I kind of pull for the Brewers. I kind of like what they've done there. They've always been such an underdog in a small market situation. I'd like to see the Brewers win that division.
Hey, Trav, are you in favor of bringing technology into the game and having a challenge system for the players?
And strikes.
Balls and strikes. What is that, the ABS system?
Yes.
Yeah, analog breaks. It's tough because there's so many just bad calls.
Yeah.
There's so many just bad calls.
It's as bad as you've ever seen it, right, Godfather?
Oh, it's terrible.
And even without Angel Hernandez, it's not all on him. There have been
C.B. Buckner's been able to take the mantle from him and become the worst.
There are so many bad calls that change the outcome of games. You can do the whole tennis system, I guess.
All right, Trav's on board, like he said.
The challenge system they've used in the minors takes 2 seconds.
Yes, I haven't paid attention to it.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
All right, we'll come back, and when we do, we'll focus in on round number 2. The Lakers got their guy at number 55. And also, how did they wind up with Dalton Connect in round number 1? You got the Rip City Drive. All right, Rip City Drive. Hope you're enjoying your afternoon. Travis Demers, the Godfather Dwight James is here. The Lakers got their guy, or I should say LeBron got his guy in round number 2 at number 55. Bronny James is going to be with the Lakers. I mean, what's your reaction to that pick? Because the way I see it is it was all orchestrated by his father. And so that's why I feel bad for Bronny, because I don't think he had any say in this situation whatsoever. I think LeBron orchestrated it. He wanted to play with his son, and no matter what Bronny wanted to do, how are you going to say no to your dad if he's pushing you that hard to make this happen?
You gotta give him credit. Every day is going to be take your son to work day for LeBron James. Yeah, I think Bronny is sort of the one person nobody has really heard much about or from. We haven't heard anything from Bronny.
They always go to his dad.
Yeah. No. And that's the way it's going to be. He'll speak for the kid now the whole first year, probably. You know, he'll say, well, Bronny's kind of unhappy, or Bronny's real happy about that.
I mean, in one way, it's kind of cool that his dad was able to usher him into the NBA, and he's going to be able to get him a contract.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, for most of the dads I know, including my own, I'm sure your dad's probably the same way, most dads, not all, but most, they want to step back from the spotlight that's shining on their son because they don't want to steal away any of that excitement of graduating from college, getting a job, getting a big opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Most dads, they're like, hey, I'm happy for you, but this is not about me. It's about you. But in this case, it feels like it's more about LeBron than it is Bronny. It's strange.
Not only that, I think most dads want their kids to make it on their own. They don't want them to have to look back and said, yeah, I accomplished a lot, but most of it was because my dad helped me or he gave me money or he did this or that. And parents want to help. Believe me, I understand that. I wanted to help my kids. You want to help yours. But at a certain point, you have to understand how he might be ostracized by his teammates and by media, everybody else. He's taken somebody's job on that roster because he doesn't deserve it. He's just not that good.
Now, he'll be obviously protected with his dad there, but just for an individual, Bronny, what's going to be the biggest challenge for him as he enters into that locker room and starts his work to show that he belongs there?
Well, he's just going to have to win his teammates over by at least showing how hard he's going to work. That's the thing. I mean, he can only play so well. And in the beginning, at least, that might not be well enough to impress too many people on the court there at their practice facility. He's going to have to say, okay, I'm going to stay after practice for a couple hours and work on this and work on that, look at more tape, do all kinds of things to at least show people, yeah, I might not have deserved this roster spot, but I'm going to work hard enough to show I can earn it.
And he can win the respect of his teammates by putting in that type of work.
Right.
All right, with the Lakers, Blazer fans don't like the Lakers. You and I don't like the president of the me generation, LeBron James. There's a lot of reasons to hate on L.A. And we don't like people from L.A. because they come up here and steal our resources and drive up our home prices and all that other nonsense. Yeah. But they did walk away with a darn good player in the first round, Dalton Connect.
Yes.
Who's going to be able to come in right away. And he just feels and smells like a J.J. Redick type player because he's a deadeye. And I hated seeing him fall to 17. The Lakers get their hands on him. And I'm wondering this because you know this. They're going to go big game hunting. They want to bring in another quote-unquote star to put next to AD and LeBron. One of the players that's always been brought up in potential deals that they would have to do would be Austin Reeves. I'm wondering now with Connect being locked in and being a guy that can shoot and provide some offense, if now that opens up the opportunity, depending on what deal comes to the table, that they might be willing to part ways with Austin Reeves.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Austin Reeves, yeah, I think you could do that if you made a deal for a playmaker.
Yeah.
But he kind of is their secondary playmaker.
Yeah.
LeBron's basically the point guard the way they play. But Reeves is a guy that can get him into some offense, and he's a good passer. So I'm not sure, Chad, what's on their mind down there. You know, it's really hard to tell. But like you told me before the draft, I just hope somebody doesn't just trade a good player and hand the Lakers a player.
Yeah.
Because it seems like it's happened so many times. Somebody just gives them a championship. They just trade them a championship.
Yeah, they made the deal with Charlotte. They got Kobe. They made that deal with the Grizzlies for a bunch of spare parts and got Pau Gasol, which ushered in 2 more championships. the Lakers, and a lot of it was Jerry West for a long period of time, being smarter than everyone else and finding a way to get good deals done. But you didn't want to see them hand someone a deal where the Lakers can go out there and add that other star next to LeBron and AD. But to have Connect fall and the Lakers make the right pick.
It's almost the same thing.
Yeah.
Because that's the guy they never dreamed they would get their hands on.
Yeah.
But the perfect guy for them. And here he is, drops right in their lap.
But this is what happens when you have dumb franchises like Memphis taking a reach on Zach Edey at 9. Edey at 9? That seems like a bit of a stretch, Godfather, for a immobile big who is a plodding, slow type of a man.
Well, you might think that, Chad, but my philosophy is I'm not going to evaluate for another year.
That's
or two.
true. That's true.
I'd rather not say anything and be right 2 years
and
from
I got to stand corrected because Aaron Fincher's called me out on social media, and for good reason.
I saw it.
I have long been critical, for good reason, too, of the American-born white big. I'm not a fan of American-born white basketball players because after Larry Bird, they have not been productive, aside from Kevin Love.
Especially the tall ones.
Yes.
Those are the ones you pick on the most.
But here's my reasoning now. I was dead wrong about Chet Holmgren. Dead wrong.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be a bum. I thought he was going to be a bust. And it turns out that he's a darn good basketball player. So because of Chet Holmgren, he has given me some hope and some faith and restored my excitement to a small degree about the American-born white big. Therefore, I am giving Donovan Clingan my blessing, and I'm excited to see him in a Trailblazer uniform. But Finchers was right. He called me out, but Chet Holmgren has shifted my view on that type of player.
Don't you think Clingan would be so happy to hear that Chad has given him the seal of approval?
Yes, the blessing. Clingan has my
Chet,
blessing.
In your defense, though, the things that you were saying about Chet Holmgren, there has never been anyone like him before.
No, he's a unicorn.
So why would you expect him to be something that nobody has ever been before? Because nobody's ever been him before. And then he goes out and he gets hurt the summer before his rookie year and doesn't play a single game.
Yeah.
Well, he's failed. You know what? He played in 82 games last year.
I know.
What, 5 guys played in 82 games last year? It's unbelievable. So your skepticism while you look back on it now, and you're like, man, I can't believe I was such a jerk. No, it was very rational.
Yes.
It was a rational thought.
But I got to give him credit because Holmgren can protect the rim. He's got the foot speed to be able to get out and contest at the three-point line. Good in the pick-and-roll situation.
Yeah.
And on offense, he is your prototypical NBA big now. He can step back and shoot the three. He can score on the block. He can rebound. He can move up and down the floor. Like, he does everything you want your center to be able to do in today's game. It's remarkable.
And he's no Wemby. He's not Wemby because
No.
he's not as tall. But he's that type of player. You know, he's not as tall. He's not as good, probably, although he shoots the three a lot better than Wemby does. Probably not the passer, the ball handler, and all the other stuff. But at least it should give you hope that maybe there's a new breed of players coming along that can be like that.
Yeah.
And yes, Dwight, but at the same time, to find a guy who is 6'10" and that kind of athletic, 6'11", 7 feet tall, that's that kind of athletic and has the ability to shoot the three. There haven't been many guys who have done that because it's not normal to have somebody whose limbs are that long to be able to move like those guys do. It's not normal.
Yeah, the other thing that's impressive, Godfather, is that Chet hasn't been getting pushed around on the block as much as I thought he would for his lanky body. He's an ectomorph.
He's kind of a tough customer, though. He gives what he gets, you know. He's not afraid to throw an elbow around once in a while.
No, he's a dog, man.
Yeah.
He's a dog.
He's tough.
Do you think he had someone like Zach's dad?
Zach Collins' dad.
Remember Zach Collins' dad? He's like, look, he trained him early to be tough because he knew that guys wouldn't respect him because he was a white big and he was lanky. So they were going to get physical with him. So he taught him to be tough. And look at Zach. He doesn't take bleep for anyone out there.
Yeah.
So I guess props to Chet Holmgren. But, yes, I have given my blessing to Clingan. What I like about him, too, we talk about his rim protection. He's a good offensive rebounder, but he's a nasty pick setter. Don't you think a guy like Scoot is going to enjoy running the pick and roll with a guy like Clingan who can set picks like that? He's a bone crusher.
In today's NBA, the pick and roll is such a massive part of the game.
It's all anybody does anymore.
Exactly. If you don't have a big that can set a pick and roll, it sets your offense back. So to have somebody who is 20 years old and is already good at it, think of where that's going to develop when those two guys get chemistry together. For all we know, they could play together for the next decade, and we look at Scoot and Klingan as one of the best pick-and-roll combos in the NBA, like we used to with Damon Nurk.
That'd be awesome. I want that. Now, I want to go back to the Lakers for a moment. I want to get your take on J.J. Redick as head coach. Seriously, like, how do you think he's going to do without the experience that we see under a traditional coach who's come in?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of peripheral things here that don't matter, right? Like his press conference the other day, old man yells at cloud when people who are, think that he was classless. Look, let's be honest, it was classless the way that he handled himself.
I thought so.
You don't have to you can get your point across without doing that. And you know me, Chad, you know how I talk off the air. I have no problem with profanity. It is not anything about that. It's a matter of there's a time and a place for everything.
But you wouldn't do it in that type of situation.
Absolutely not. And for someone who has been in broadcasting now for a little bit, he should understand how to have a filter and the appropriateness of things. But none of that stuff matters, okay? Do the X's and O's matter? Yeah, of course they do. But what matters more than anything else is having talented players. And does that team have enough talent to be good? Some teams win in spite of their coach. Some coaches are so good that they can extract every little, ounce of success out of you. I have no idea if J.J. Redick is that kind of coach. I have no idea if he's going to be a bad coach. But what I do know is that the players have to buy in to whatever it is that he's doing, and they have to be good. I don't think that team is good enough to be a top 6 team in the Western Conference. I don't think that team is good enough today as constructed. Could they make some trades? Yeah, sure. I don't think they are good enough to be a legit championship contender in a very deep Western Conference. I think even in the East, they probably wouldn't be better than 3rd or 4th.
Okay, that brings me up to a question. This is very important. This is the most important thing that we could discuss on this. The Godfather and I have a friendly wager for dinner at El Gaucho.
Okay.
I had to pay up last year and bought him dinner at El Gaucho, and it ran me pretty steep, and it was a good time, wasn't it, Godfather?
Very good.
Over 300 bills. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. He and I have a wager. I think the Lakers are going to be below their win total of 47 games last year. So 46 or below, I win. He thinks they're going to go above 47, so 48 or more, he wins. How many wins do you think the Lakers will have next year?
Okay, now I do have to preface this by saying I am contractually obligated to not talk about betting in any capacity whatsoever regarding the NBA. So I am not going to take the bait on your bet and get fired. But what I will say, Chad, is that are the Lakers going to be better or worse than they were last year with their current roster as it is today? I think they were better last year than they will be next year.
So do you think Darvin Ham was a better coach than JJ will be this year?
No, I think that they're probably around the same ballpark. The West is tougher, and they haven't upgraded their roster at all.
Do you think Trae Young makes sense for them?
No, I don't.
Neither does Dwight.
You want another guy who has to have the ball in his hands on that team?
Yeah. He can't guard anybody either.
No.
That's his problem.
But if you're the Hawks, you would rather have Dejounte Murray than Trae Young, right?
Yeah, because he's a very good two-way player, and while he's got some, ego issues, as most guys do, he's somebody that could fit anywhere. Trae Young is not.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. Travis Demers and Dwight Jaynes here in the studio. Well, the good thing is, Godfather, no matter who's buying, we're going to have a good time at El Gaucho, right?
Yeah. And every time we say that, I think, why don't we have some sort of a deal with them? Because we talk so highly of them.
All right, when we come back, we love El Gaucho.
Yes.
Vancouver and Portland.
Yeah. 2 locations to serve you. Yes.
And Ian is the bomb.
He's a great server. And Jen over in Vancouver is a really nice host.
Yeah, I think I love her.
Mm-hmm.
I love Jen and I love Ian. I love both of them. All right, when we come back, we'll dive into the Trailblazers and then one of the creepier things that's going on with NBC and their Olympic coverage. We'll get to that. AI is taking over. All right, here's the press release that just came out from the Trailblazers. The Portland Trailblazers have acquired the 2027 second-round pick, a 2029 second-round pick, and a 2030 second-round pick from the New York Knicks in exchange for Tyler Kolek, who Portland selected with the number 34 pick in the 2024 NBA draft. So, Travis, the Blazers doing a good job of going out and recouping some of the draft capital they gave up last night in the effort to go out and get Deni Avdija.
Yeah, I think there were a couple of reasons why they punted on the second round. One of them was to get back a couple of picks. And you think about this, though, Chad, second-round picks don't have a ton of value, right, until you need them. But the Blazers got, 6 second-round picks in the GP2 deal at last year's deadline? They have a lot of second-round picks, so they can use them pretty freely, right? And in a situation like this year, when you have second-round picks, you can essentially give them up for not nothing, but almost nothing, because they hold such little value that if they're not, and I'm not saying they don't have any value, but when you're in a position where you can't really use them, and this year, when you have a full 15-man roster right now, which they do, based on, with a couple of, non-guarantee situations in there, and there's nobody that you really love, there's no reason to draft a guy there. So give it up for a future opportunity. So I think they did exactly what they needed to do today, unless there was somebody that they really liked. Sometimes there's a guy that's sitting there like, man, that could be a great value at 40, especially if we sign him to a two-way deal. They obviously didn't believe that player was there.
And, Dwight, you don't put much stock into second-round picks, do you?
No, I don't, Chad. I think if you get the early ones, like this one was 34, that's a pretty good second-round pick. There's still –
because you can get a good player and not have to pay him as much money as a first-rounder.
Yeah. And so I think that one's okay. You just don't want to get buried past about number 40, or you're not going to get much of a player. And they don't have a lot of trade value now because you can just go buy them if you want them.
It's not often that you get a Toumani Camara or a guy in that situation. Do they exist? Absolutely they do. Jabari Walker was the second to last pick in the draft a couple of years ago. He has certainly exceeded his draft slot, but those guys don't come around all that often.
All right. Quick update on the temperature condition here in the studios. Michael Shacker was wearing a full-on jacket and a beanie cap that he just removed not too long ago. And you've got your full jacket on right now, so it's still cold in here. So whoever you reached out to that says they're on it, Shacker, they're not on it right now.
Yeah,
no, they're really busy. They're going to get to it soon.
Are you hot, Chad? Are you cold?
It's starting to cool down. I mean, I was warm when I came in because it was a little bit warmer outside, but the temperature in here has been cold, and it gets colder as we get closer to 6 o'clock. Does it not?
Yeah. The more the day goes along, the colder it gets.
Was it like that when you worked in the studio every day?
I always thought it was kind of hot in here.
Yeah, it's been weird.
Well, do you remember back in the day, though, that Shacker would come in here in the afternoon into this studio?
Yeah.
And because that thermostat controls both rooms.
Yeah.
He would come over here behind Dwight, and he would change the thermostat. And then there was a morning host at the time.
It was Nigel.
Yeah, it was Nigel, who would get very upset and would let Shacker know that he would appreciate it if when he changed it before he left to change it back.
Yeah.
And I told him the same thing. You change it back.
Yeah, and now
he didn't, and then I didn't.
This is like the hotel deal where they got the fake thermostat on the wall. It doesn't work anymore.
We're convinced it's not connected to anything. It's just to let you think you can control it.
It's insane.
So you won't call the hotel desk and complain.
All right, before we get to this AI story, I want to ask you guys, biggest surprise through round one last night, what jumped out? Anything surprise you? Any player that landed somewhere that was a surprise that you think will work out well? What jumped out to you, Godfather, outside of Portland?
Besides Portland, I thought Connect would go in the top 10 picks. A guy who could shoot like that, experienced player, battled all the way up from a JUCO to get to the NBA. He's got a great story. I just thought somebody'd take him.
There are a couple. I was shocked, just like Dwight was, to see Connect drop all the way to 17. Once he got past 10 or so, I'm surprised that you didn't see a team that is a top 4, top 8 team in the league make a play for him to trade up because he is the kind of guy that can come in as a rookie.
Yeah.
And with what he does and the right fit can have a major impact. If he's a 40% three-point shooter with his size and his work ethic, I'm surprised you didn't see that, especially because he would be a rookie and maybe out of the lottery. That's a pretty cheap, contract situation there. So I was very surprised at that. I was a little surprised to see Edey go at number 9.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see Buzelis drop all the way at 11. And did you see how emotional he got yesterday? He was drafted by his hometown team. It was really cool to see how excited he was because for him, if you're not going to be a top 5 pick and you're drafted there, at least you get to play at home. And I thought that was really cool. And then Ron Holland. I thought he was going to go later than that.
Yeah. That was a surprise.
I was surprised at that.
Francis very high on Ron Holland.
Very, yeah. And I definitely trust him. I have not seen much about Holland. I just have not heard good things. And the other one was Dillingham. You see the Spurs take 2 guards and then turn around and trade Dillingham to Minnesota. What I was surprised by with San Antonio wasn't necessarily that they drafted 2 guards and traded one of them, is that you have 4 and 8 for a team that is trying to be good when they're not, and they haven't been. So to take a top 10 pick and trade it away for something, was it 2030? So you basically just said, oh, we don't need this pick. We don't need it. I was very surprised to see that happen.
I think San Antonio's going to tank again.
You do.
I do. I was surprised they tanked this year, but they did.
Why would they do that, though?
The allure of those players that are up there.
Next year.
Yeah, and they've had no problem tanking. I mean, they've done it for years now. I mean,
Pop's got carte blanche to do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
But you would think with Wemby being so good,
I know. Why would you want to sentence him to not winning?
All right. I want to shift focus for a moment. NBC on Wednesday, the network announced it would include your daily Olympic recap on Peacock, which will be narrated by a high-quality AI recreation of Al Michaels' voice, which was trained using his past appearances on NBC and matches his signature expertise and elocution. You want to take a listen to a sample of this?
I would love to.
Let's take a listen to Al Michaels. Here is the AI-generated voice that you will hear with Peacock's Olympic updates.
Hi, Kelly. Welcome to your daily Olympic recap, your personal rundown of yesterday's most thrilling Olympic moments. Since you're a swimming fan, let's head right to the pool. Team USA secured a stunning victory in the men's 4x100-meter medley relay, smashing the world record. Over at the diving venue, Krista Palmer showcased resilience and skill, overcoming past knee surgeries to qualify for the women's springboard final. Meanwhile, a tough break for Canada's Pamela Ware as a failed final dive scored 0, ending her bid for the final. Check out these highlights from yesterday's action.
That's a pretty darn good replication.
That's terrifying. That is terrifying. If you did not tell me that was AI, unless I really focused and tried to listen, I would not have thought of that. I would not have thought that was AI.
Yeah, if you're just listening and passing like that's Al Michaels.
Yeah.
I think that ought to be illegal.
Yeah.
I mean, they are using his voice from, they're modeling it after his voice on NBC. So they're going to say, we own that stuff. But they didn't own him saying those words. And it's like, they owe him money. They're telling people.
Is he not getting paid?
I don't think so. There's never been any mention of him being paid for it. And they're thinking, hey, this is a way to get his voice and not pay him. Why wouldn't they just pay him to do it?
See, I thought they were paying him to do that. And if that was the case, that's what I was going to say is why don't you just have him do it?
Yeah, the report doesn't indicate if there's going to be payment made or not. But
Wow.
Michaels, in response, said, quote, when I was approached about this, I was skeptical, but obviously curious. Then I saw a demonstration detailing what they had in mind. I said, I'm in.
Okay, well,
he doesn't have to do, if he's getting paid and he doesn't have to do anything, why not?
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like he's all in on it, whether he's getting paid or not.
Wait, I don't have to do anything and you're going to pay me?
But it would
How
seem
much?
to me that if you're going to utilize his past appearances and you're replicating his voice, there's got to be payment there.
Yeah, you would assume.
Yeah,
But let me
intellectual
tell
property.
Here's the other thing, though. We're all on the radio tons of time. Anybody could be. I mean, they can make you, with AI, they can make you say anything. Can you imagine, Chad? Your voice is pretty recognizable, as is Travis's. It could pop up somewhere saying all kinds of filthy stuff, stupid stuff, political stuff, whatever. That's
You
frightening.
can say that I like the Red Sox. I mean, that's probably the most offensive
terrible thing for you to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the part that scares me the most in this industry, we already have a station in town that's using AI as a DJ voice to play their music. And the question is, how long until they have AI that's good enough to be able to have a conversation or to carry on banter and talk sports?
Or how about broadcast a basketball game?
Stop it. Stop it. You stop it right now.
And how much money would a team save by having an AI voice-generated play-by-play guy?
Ask Travis. He would know how much they'd save.
$7.
$20 a game, right?
But you know what's funny is that there are people, like if you extrapolate this out, the concerns about long-term about AI becoming so good that it starts to take over everything.
Uh-huh. There's some very intelligent people warning about the dangers of AI, of them getting control of our defense system, our whatever, everything that we have, our grid, electronic grid. Everything.
There's been movies made that at the time appeared to be far-fetched, but now you see the development and the way that AI is coming along, and you're like, uh-oh.
2001 Space Odyssey. Did you ever see it?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was actually a movie that was well ahead of its time based on when it came out.
For
You know,
sure.
there was this classic, Chad, that when I was a kid, you're a little older than me, and it showed the idea of video calling. Back to the Future 2. And the scene when the great Marty McFly has to swipe his card with needles and gets fired. That was a sign of the future, and they predicted it correctly.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's pretty creepy. But what I don't like about this is that Al Michaels is a legendary voice in the broadcast business. Like, he's basically part of the soundtrack of our lives and some of the big calls that he's had over the years in all sports. I don't like the idea of a legendary voice being repurposed with AI and being utilized. I think it's too good of a voice, and he's an absolute original to be using AI. I'm not down with it.
I want to hear AI Marv Albert. Hello and welcome.
I mean, that part is actually intriguing to me. The thought of being able to recreate some of the voices that we grew up with.
Vince Scully, come on.
Mel Allen. Yeah, that'd be cool. I love Jack Buck's voice. You're one of a kind.
Oh, me too.
I want to use AI for to get Mike Parker. Although, if you asked Mike Parker to say most things within reason, I'm sure he would, because he is awesome.
What was he quoting to you the other day? Some obscure movie or book, or what was the reference?
He was reading a book about the fall of Constantinople.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. This is a waste of humanity's time.
Yeah.
That ball's foul, Jim.
By 10 feet.
Yeah, I mean, that ball, what?
By 10.
Are they are Cincinnati asking for that to be looked at? Is that the deal? Overton front court to Thomas, and Isaiah bumped on the way up. Oh, and they're counting the basket. He's counting the basket. Are you kidding me? 20. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? 20 and 21 in the two games at Stanford in the playoffs in '82. Trotsky takes high and in. Oh, my goodness. No. No.
Here goes the headset. This one's recent.
I've never heard this one.
That's terrible. That is terrible. That is terrible.
Is he yelling at an umpire?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm telling you that he took the pitch high and inside for ball 3, and it was called strike 3 on Jabin Trotsky. And you heard me, and I apologize, but not too much. Travis Bazzana takes a strike, and the count 0-1. I mean, I'm just simply writing down, takes high and inside, ball 3, and all of a sudden I see Steve Mattingly ringing Trotsky up.
And then after that, he gave a fake apology.
Maybe the second time this year I've gotten that upset, but for those of you who may have seen it, even though it's still, whether justified or not, it is incorrect and boorish behavior. I'm sorry, but it was bad.
Boorish behavior.
Sorry, not sorry. Well, Travis, Chad,
Travis, it's a good question. It's an important question. And I believe we're moving towards an answer, closure to that question and that issue. We'll get this tailgate going early with a Go Beavs. Very good. And then is he horse-collared at the 8? Yes! And he ought to be teed up! Terrible call!
Yeah,
I love Mike Parker.
Yeah,
We all do.
Yeah, if Mike Parker goes sooner rather than later, you should use AI to recreate some anger.
Yeah.
That's so good.
I hope that someday I'm not saying I'm in Mike Parker's ballpark, but I hope someday that you're able to put together some type of montage like that of me.
Oh, I will. If you keep going after the officials the way that you are, we're going to have a good montage, Trav. I love it. I love it. Yeah, Parker's great. But who would be the one voice? Is it Scully? Who would be the one voice? Skip Carey? Who would you recreate if you could recreate a voice to be able to hear?
It would be Scully, because I could never recreate Skip's sense of humor. I don't know that AI is capable of that. And that was a big part of listening to Skip. But, yeah, Jack Buck, Vince Scully, I mean, those guys are gold. They're just gold.
Do you have the Vin Scully drop where he talks about Mike Matheny and the bird poop?
I can see if I can find that. What was the one that's socialism?
That's one of my favorite stories. Have you ever heard that? Where he's telling the story about Mike Matheny at college, and he steps onto campus and a bird pooped on him, and that made him change his mind and made his decision up again. And that's the story of Mike Matheny and the bird poop.
No, it's terrific. I love this, too, where he just absolutely destroys socialism in the middle of a baseball game, talking about Venezuela. And it's just amazing that he can do it so seamlessly.
Anyway, 0-2.
Take a listen to this.
Socialism failing to work as it always does, this time in Venezuela. You talk about giving everybody something free, and all of a sudden there's no food to eat. And who do you think is the richest person in Venezuela? The daughter of Hugo Chavez. Hello. Anyway, 0-2.
That's amazing.
0-2.
Oh, my goodness. All right, we'll get some Mike Matheny and the bird poop. No one could do it like Vince Scully. Yeah, he's a one of a kind.
Yeah.
You could recreate his voice.
Hey, I got to tell you, by the way, since Bronny was drafted, LeBron is really taking heat on X right now.
Oh, he is?
Oh, man, from all quarters. Even Bomani Jones got into him big time.
Well, don't worry about it. Clutch and all of his cronies will be out finding a way to justify and then shape the narrative to where it can somehow be played into he's better than Michael Jordan. They're good at that right now.
Yeah. Jeez.
All right, let's take a listen to Vince Scully and the bird poop. This for Travis Demers.
Bottom of the second inning, no score, and the subject is Mike Matheny. Matheny, 44 years old come the end of September, born in Ohio, lives in Missouri. But he was not even 18 years old, and he came to the University of Michigan with a major league dilemma. Earlier that summer, the Toronto Blue Jays had drafted a catching prospect in the 31st round, but Matheny decided to honor his college commitments, but he had a lot of doubts. Getting drafted was a dream come true, and if he waited till later on, the next time the offer would be less or not forthcoming at all. So he was a young man, not 18, and a lot of pressure. Should I turn pro or go to college? Major League Baseball rules allow players to sign with teams up until the player officially enters college full-time. That's the key, full-time. Anyway, Matheny showered, ready to go to class for the first day. Walked out of the dormitory, stomach knotted, and a pigeon defecated directly on his head. Now, conventional wisdom would suggest the bird bombing was a sign that he should hit the road. But Matheny had to go back and clean up. The pitch to Uribe, a strike, 0-1 the count. He went back and showered and cleaned up and decided all of a sudden he was at peace. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to go to college. And there was one other thing that happened. The strike one pitch swung on and missed, 0-2. Matheny went to his first class, and when he reached class, he noticed a pretty field hockey player named Kristen. And he would marry her and live happily ever after. And that's the story of Mike Matheny and the bird poop.
Wow. How many people can do that but Vin, Godfather?
They always said, too, he had such a knack for starting these stories when nothing would happen to interrupt it, or the inning would never end. No matter how long the story, he never got to the point where it's like, I'll have to finish this story next inning. It never happened to him.
I love it. He's like, well, a pigeon defecated on him, and the 2-1 outside.
Yeah.
All right, one guy that's taking a lot of heat on social media right now is LeBron James. After the Lakers drafted Bronny in the second round with pick number 55. Let's take a listen to Woj defending LeBron and the Lakers for drafting Bronny.
Superstar who's blessed your franchise with a championship, with box office appeal, marketability, etc. What LeBron James has done for the organization, a willingness to sit up there and to do that, to show that you take care of your own, is a big deal.
You know what? And I don't want to hear these charges, people talking about nepotism.
No,
the NBA is full of nepotism.
Full of it.
The ownership level, front offices,
absolutely,
coaching. Yep. I don't want to hear it all of a sudden because of Bronny James's father plays for the Lakers. Right. It is rampant in this league.
That is
there you go.
Oh, he's not wrong. It is all over the place. Just because it happens all over the place doesn't make it a good look. I mean, look, Bronny James he was a borderline drafted player. Okay, is it a big deal that he was drafted? If another team drafted him, would we be saying anything about this? No. And could you make the case that he was a draftable player? Yeah, you can. So it wasn't completely egregious. It's just not a good look, especially if he signs a full contract.
Yeah, I'm not sure he was a draftable player. Talking to a lot of scouts and people in that business who don't think he was. I think the other side of it is, what about Clutch Sports, the agency that his father is the puppet master for, calling around the league saying, don't take the kid or we'll ship him off to Australia to play. All the things that were done to influence the Lakers getting him. I believe what somebody put out on Twitter already, the kid ought to wear number 23.5.
But that would be, I mean, obviously you can't do what they did. They did it. It'd be collusion, right? Like the NBA would frown upon that. But if you do it behind back channels and nothing official, you just let it be known that, hey, if you want to work with Clutch in the future, just leave Bronny alone.
And that's just it. Clutch has so much influence right now in the league that everybody's afraid to double cross them.
Well, I'm not worried about LeBron. I just, I want Bronny to be in the best situation possible.
Yeah.
It's just weird when you see a dad putting his son in this type of spot. That's all. Because it's not a great spot. He's going to get him a contract and get him paid, which is great. But the real issue here will be anything that he gets, will players around the league respect him, or will they look at him and say, just like they did with, Doc Rivers' son?
Yeah, right.
You got paid because you're dad.
It's not too unlike that situation, actually.
If he's a good player, none of this matters. We just don't know if he's a good player, and he could be a good player. He could be,
but not right away.
No, of course not right away. No,
this
absolutely
is what
not.
got. He's getting a break that players of his ability level never get.
Right,
really,
100%.
How many dads, if they had the opportunity, would do this for their son? Would you do that for your son?
Well, I would help him get a job. For sure, I would. But this is such a different situation in that this is such a competitive job wherein people can see the actual competitiveness taking place right in front of their eyes. Your son might be a better board op than Shacker, okay? Well, how are we going to prove that? How do we know that until he goes in there and sits down, okay? But in basketball, we've seen this kid play enough and seen enough scouting reports on him. We know how good he is. He wasn't good enough to start for a Pac-12 team. Not exactly the top basketball conference in the country.
And not exactly the best school in that
conference. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that does differentiate itself a little bit from some of the other nepotism situations.
Well, I think what makes sports special, or what I think the reason why we like it, is that it's a meritocracy.
Earn your way.
You earn your way, where you're all put out there on the floor. If you work hard and improve yourself, you'll get the opportunity.
There are some sports where this would work more than others. In the NBA, you can have a 15th guy on the roster that doesn't play because the 15th guy on the roster just doesn't play. In the NFL, this would never work. In Major League Baseball, this would never work. I don't know about the NHL. But even in our industry, there's plenty of nepotism that goes around. And there are some times where somebody who, because of who their family is, gets an opportunity, and then they turn out to be just awesome at what they do. Noah Eagle is a perfect example of that. Noah Eagle is phenomenal at what he does. And I'm not trying to call anybody out by names, but look at the Carey family. Okay, there's a billion of them, and
and Chip is terrible.
The Albert family.
The Albert family. Who's the latest Carey? Isn't he doing the A's games or something? I haven't heard him. Is he any good?
I think that's Chip's son is now doing some games for the A's.
Yeah, I haven't heard him, so I have no idea.
I haven't either.
But like Chris Collinsworth kid, Jack.
Right.
How did he get that job? Obviously, and I haven't watched him enough to really have an opinion. I know there are a lot of people who don't have a very high opinion of him.
Yeah.
I don't have an opinion one way or the other. But in just about every industry, there is nepotism. There are plenty of industries where nepotism is not just frowned upon, but illegal. Okay, the NBA is not one of them in terms of players.
It's weird. The reality is that if he didn't have LeBron James as a father, he would have gone back to college for another season.
Yeah.
Most likely. He would have gone back to, and he wouldn't have been at USC. He would have been at Eastern Illinois.
That's right. He was already in the portal. He was already made up his mind to transfer. But you're right. He wouldn't have transferred up. He would have probably transferred down. To a lesser school.
If he was at USC in the first place.
Yeah. Well, that's very debatable, right?
All right. We'll come back on the Rip City Drive. Travis Demerson in studio. And when we do, we'll react to what went down yesterday and what I think was a terrific night for Joe Cronin and the Trailblazers. You got the Rip City Drive.
With the 7th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Portland Trailblazers select Donovan Clingan from the University of Connecticut.
All right, just a helpful reminder so you don't get punked this weekend. The I-5 closure will stretch southbound from Southwest Terwilliger Boulevard exit ramp to the Capitol Highway on-ramp. The northbound closures will go from the Southwest Barber Boulevard exit ramp to the Terwilliger on-ramp. So in other words, a total disaster. That's hideous.
Good thing I never have anywhere to go.
All weekend long.
And then the Trailblazers have put out a press release Saturday. Donovan Clingan will be introduced to Rip City over at the practice facility. So Donovan Clingan will be in town on Saturday.
I told Lincoln, my 6-year-old, because he's getting really invested in it, Chad. So I was telling him about what yesterday was and all that. And he said, "Daddy, who are the Blazers' new players?" And I said, "Well, they drafted a 7'2" kid named Donovan Clingan." And he started laughing. He said, "That's a silly name."
Yeah, that's what kids think, man.
Yep.
When I hear Klingan, I think of Klingon from Star Trek.
Yeah.
That's what comes across my mind.
People have asked me, what's your dunk call going to be, or what's your block call going to be for Klingan? I have not thought that far ahead, man. We are a long ways away from figuring that out.
Do individual players get their own? Is that how it works?
Well, it depends.
I'm not really up on that.
It depends. Like for certain players, like if something stands out, like there was this whole thing on Reddit about Drew Eubanks that when he did something like you put him in the vault, like the Eubank vault. Mm-hmm. So if he blocked someone, I would say he put him in the vault. Things like that.
I see.
But it really depends. I have a good lob dunk call that I've been waiting to break out for Scoot to Sharp, but they didn't have one last year.
Yeah.
So I'm still sitting on that one.
Well, with his nickname Kling Kong, I think you can come up with something good.
Yeah.
Kling Kong.
That's a good one. Kling Kong. And then what's the one for Stephen Kwan?
King Kwan.
King Kwan.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. I like that. Kling Khan. You'll be able to come up with something good, Trav.
I'm
I have
sure
faith
I will.
in you.
I've got time.
All right. The Blazers had a big night last night. I want to get your guys' reaction to this. Donovan Clingan came to them at number 7 in the draft. Not sure they expected him to be available at 7. He was picked anywhere from 1 to 8 in the mock drafts, but he winds up there. They also made a move. Malcolm Brogdon is out. They made a deal with Washington. They move out Brogdon and some future draft picks, including the 14th pick in yesterday's first round. They get Deni Avdija, who's a 23-year-old 6'9" forward, shoots the 3-ball at 37%, a playmaker and a plus defender. Dwight, we'll start with you. Your overall takeaway, you're out at the facility last night, had a chance to talk to Joe Cronin. Your takeaway for the night for the Trailblazers.
I think that they were very pleased with the way the first day went. They probably were pleased with both days, as it turned out, Chad. I think they got the one play. How often do you go in with a 7th pick and say, okay, this is the guy we want, and actually be able to get him at 7? And especially when a lot of mock drafts had him going higher than that. One even had him going number 1. So I think they're real pleased to get him. They seem to have a big investment emotionally with him. They interviewed him. They had him here. They liked him. They've liked him for 2 years. They got him.
All right, Deni Avdija, the forward.
Yeah, he couldn't talk about him, so we couldn't really get a lot of info. But they got a guy who's an NBA starting forward. He is a starting forward. The only question with him, I have no question that he can play a little bit. The only question is, did they give up too much with 4 draft picks going over in the deal? So that would be the only question. But the other question is, what could you get at 14, too? So that has to be taken into account.
Yeah. What about the fact that he's a starter, he's a pretty good player, and that may not exactly match up with what they're trying to accomplish next year?
Yeah, that's a possibility, too. But, guys can always get injured, Chad.
That's true.
Either really or not quite really.
Yeah.
Oh, they also traded the born-to-be-traded Malcolm Brogdon, too.
Yeah, so Brogdon's off to D.C. My guess is he won't be there for too long. Yeah, he'll be on his way out, I would imagine, sometime in the near future. Trav, your reaction to what went down for the Blazers last night?
Well, I mean, Dwight basically summed it up for Clingan. It's a guy that you went into the draft saying, this is the dude we want. Wherever we are, if we got to move up, we'll consider it, but this is the dude we want. let's hope that he falls to 7, and he did. That doesn't happen, especially when you see mocks where he could have been 3rd or 4th or 5th. And we saw the reports over the last week or two that the Blazers were considering, again, reports, that they were considering trading up to 3 to ensure that they got Donovan Clingan. Well, they didn't have to. So it's a win all the way around. He's big. He's strong. He's a terrific defender. He blocks shots, good rebounder, good passer. By all accounts, he's a hard worker and a great kid. So all of those things, his offensive game is limited right now. Good around the rim, but he's got a limited offensive game. But he's 20 years old. So I would be more concerned if it was the other way around. I'd much rather have him be the defensive guy that you need and the room to improve on the offensive end than an offensive stud and a lot of work to do on the defensive end.
Yeah, especially for what this team needs. Dwight, imagine if Clingan can, continue to put in the work and develop the three-point shot. How much more effective can he be then?
Well, you really have something then. I mean, that's the center everybody's looking for. Can make threes and then can goaltend for you at the basket. And by that, I mean be a goalie and a rim protector.
I want to go back to what Dwight was saying a minute ago, Chad, about giving up too much. And I respect and appreciate your point. I don't think it was too much, and I want to explain why. Because look, going piece by piece, okay, Malcolm Brogdon, you knew you were going to trade him. What were you going to get back for Malcolm Brogdon? You were hoping to get back, a young player on a decent contract with, some skills. Well, you did get that. But if you're talking draft capital, for him, it was even from the beginning once they got him, the idea, the consensus was, and I don't know if this is what the Blazers believe, but the consensus was it was probably going to be a late first-round pick. Okay, were you going to be able to get a player like Avdija with a late first-round pick? Probably not. The 2029 pick, you've already got 3 picks in that draft, and you've got to do some work before you get to 2029. So now you have 2 picks in that draft, and you get to keep the best one. So while I don't like giving up a ton of future draft capital, it's not like you gave up a pick in a year where now you don't have one, and you still have 2 more, including the best one of those 3. The second-round picks, I don't think they hold a ton of value, and you just got more back today. And then there's the 14th pick, as Dwight said. Was there anybody that you really liked at 14? And was whoever you were going to get at 14 going to be what we know that Avdija is and what his potential can continue to be? And how long was it going to take him to get there? So considering the fact that he's 23 years old, he is on one of the friendliest contracts that I have ever seen. That is an unbelievably friendly contract. It's not just the fact that it's, getting smaller every year. It's the fact that the 4th year of that deal in 27, 28 is going to be worth $11 million and change. That is going to be less than the mid-level exception in 27, 28. It might be around the taxpayer exception in 27, 28 for a guy who will be 27 years old. So, that's incredible right there. And you get a guy who, as Dwight said, is going to start, who has gotten better every year, and last year was finally put in a position on the floor to succeed. And, Coach Keefe put him in a spot where they can highlight the things he does well at instead of under Wes Unseld. They basically just had him camp out as a 3-and-D guy, which is not his strong suit. And again, I am going off of things that I've read because I have not watched enough of his game to really know, that's what he does. The things that I have read about, and this was before the trade, this was during the season, reports about why he was having so much success last year. Shot 37% from 3, over 50% from the floor, 7+ rebounds, was a 3.5 assists, 15 points a game, all of this stuff. It's all great. So is he an all-star? He's probably not an all-star. Could he pop and develop into that guy? Maybe. Some guys are late bloomers. Dwight, you made the point earlier that by your 4th or 5th year in the NBA, you know what a guy is.
Usually.
And for the most part, that's the case. But that doesn't mean he can't continue to improve on what he is because he's still, 23 years old. But even if what he was last year is what he is, a 15, 7, and 3 guy who shoots 37% from 3, who's 6'9", athletic, and defend well, I'm pretty good with that.
How do they get guys to sign contracts
Like that?
obvious?
I don't. Bad agent, I would say.
You front load them too.
So you front load it. I'm just curious how that conversation goes down.
That's fine for the team. In the most part, I don't know. I don't know what to say about any of that. I just think he's not going to be a part of your, 2 or 3 years from now when you're getting real serious about a playoff berth and all those things. I don't know if he's going to be a part of your team. Maybe he is. Maybe he ges big. Maybe he turns it. Maybe he pops. I don't know.
But he doesn't have to be your starting small forward in that spot, especially it's not like you're paying him $25 million and like, man, we can't have a guy who's making this much money coming off the bench. If 2-3 years from now you're in a position where you like him and he does good things, but he's a role player and he's got to come off the bench, I think it's a really good problem to have.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. This is a player, Malcolm Brogdon. All I remember is when they got him, it's trade capital because you're going to be able to get something for him either at the trade deadline or after the year. Well, maybe, but, he was part of a Drew Holiday deal. They gave up Drew Holiday. I would have hoped he had more value than that.
But you also got a couple of first-round picks and Robert Williams III in that. It's not like
Celtic first-round picks, yeah.
Golden State. They got the pick that they used to get Deni Avdija they got 2 of those pieces there. But you also still have Robert Williams III in there and another pick in the future.
Right.
I'm just happy they got a small forward. How long have they been looking for a small forward? Now they got one that's 6'9".
19. Oh, yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while.
So what's next? What's the next step for the Blazers as we move out of the draft and into the free agency? What's next?
Trades are they're on the front burner right now, I would think. I mean, they have to pare the roster down a little bit.
How many of the veterans would you try to move out?
As many as I could. I don't think on a veteran with what they want to accomplish next year. And you talk about a guy like Simons, Grant. If you're in the market for losing games next year, how much are those guys going to play? And by not playing a lot or sitting out games or whatever, are they going to increase their value or decrease their value? I would say their value is probably higher now than it would be after next season.
Well, that goes back to what we were talking about a couple of days ago with the conflict that exists between front office and coach, right? Because coach wants to win. And if he's got access to, the vets, he's going to play him 100%.
But to answer your question of what's next, I mean, there is no room to sign free agents, period. You don't have any roster space to sign free agents. And it's not a great crop of free agents. So when free agency starts on Sunday, you could have other teams saying, man, we got to get better. There's nobody we can sign in free agency. We've got to make a trade, and they might be a little bit more interested in paying a little more.
Yeah, that's right. With the weaker free agent class, maybe that's where teams can look at Grant or Simons or whoever they have interest in and try to get something done. And what were you saying that with the move to get under the luxury tax with Brogdon going out and getting a cheaper deal in Avdija, they don't have any limitations in the deals that they can make now?
Yeah, there are no limitations there. They're under the luxury tax. If they needed to waive an extra person, they could do that, and I don't know who it would be. And the other part of that, like we talked about earlier, Chad, is for teams that are over that second apron. Now things get challenging because they can't aggregate salaries and do a 2-for-1 trade.
All right, we'll come back. We're going to talk about, the deals that went down the day before the draft. Focus in on the Knicks, who appear now to be in a position to make a run in the East. We'll get the thoughts from Trav and Dwight. You got the Rip City Drive. Well, it's still freezing balls in here, Godfather. It's getting colder. We're getting closer to 6 o'clock. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
I know all these warm days I leave the house. Neighbors must think I'm nuts. I'm not wearing the coat when it's warm, but I'm carrying it with me. It's like, where are you going for crying out loud? The Arctic?
Hey, did you make it out to the range to get some practice in?
Yesterday?
You told me you were going out there for some practice.
Oh, yeah. Yesterday was the one day I said that was a problem because it was it was Tuesday, ball picker day.
Oh.
Yeah, so the range was closed, but I did putt. Yeah, I putted.
Hey, Chad, there's a sweatshirt in there. If you're cold, you can wear it.
I'm not wearing the 49ers sweatshirt hanging up behind me.
Get a picture
Look
of
at
that.
Shacker trying to work me right now. All right, let's talk about the Knicks. They made that aggressive maneuver to go out and get Mikal Bridges, giving up a ton of draft picks in the process. Also, it's been reported that OG Anunoby is going to re-sign 5 years, $212 million. Clearly, those two wings together would appear to give them a chance now to make a run with their Villanova squad at the Boston Celtics next year. I mean, what's your takeaway now that you've had some time to think about those two guys together, Bridges and Anunoby, Godfather?
Well, they should be good. There's no question about it. They're serious. The Knicks are a well-run organization now, which we haven't been able to say in so long.
What? I agree, but I can't believe I have no idea the last time I've ever actually heard anybody say those words and mean it. It's true.
But have you gotten the scuttlebutt on how they were able to work out the balance between front office and the owner? I mean, how'd they get Dolan from...
I'm still not convinced that Dolan right now is not an AI creation and that somewhere they've got Dolan tied up in a cave.
Oh, weekend at Bernie's situation.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. It's I don't know how that happens, but yeah, they've served notice. They're going to be a factor. The only thing is they're giving a lot of money to a guy in Anunoby who's only played the last 4 years. He's only played 65% of his team's games. He does get hurt. He is that guy.
Is Leon Rose the one who's responsible for getting this ship back on track?
Yeah, I think so. Right? Yeah.
What about the money for Anunoby?
Well, what do you mean? What about it?
Well, there's concerns about health and games played.
Yeah, well, they're in a position where they can afford to make that gamble, and they have money. They're not. I don't think they're too concerned about it. They got draft picks still to spend. They've got a player they could trade if they want. They've got a lot of things going for them. Their connection with it. Who is it? Is it CAC, the agency that they're so tightly connected with? World Wide West and all those people that are kind of together, and they have a lot of connections in the league. They're the new kind of rival to Clutch in terms of their influence. It's an interesting situation in New York, and one that should have happened a long time ago. That's a franchise that should have been powerful for the last, I don't know how many years, and they just haven't been.
Well, I mean, the Melo trade really set them back a lot of years because they gave up so much. Melo was going to sign with them in the offseason, and they gave up so much to go trade for him, but they depleted the roster and killed the future because, it was a number of guys that they traded away and draft picks, including the draft pick that eventually became Jamal Murray. And they gave up so much that they had no ability to build for the future. They made bad signings, Bargnani, and the injuries to Amari Stoudemire and Eddie Curry. They just made bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, and they had no prayer. So they have done an incredible job of putting this together. And you look at the big pieces of the players that are on the roster. Okay, would you say that Brunson and Randall are their two best players?
I would say Brunson and Mikal Bridges are the two best players.
Okay. Randall's the only one of those guys who's been an all-star of late. That's why I include him in there. But so you add in Mikal Bridges, you add in OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, the list goes on and on. None of them were drafted by the Knicks. Deuce McBride was, but none of those other guys were drafted by the Knicks. Julius Randle, free agent. Jalen Brunson, free agent. Josh Hart, trade. OG Anunoby, trade. Mikal Bridges, trade. So they have taken all the things that they have had and moved the pieces around to get draft picks, to be able to make that deal that they made for Mikal Bridges. You know, they drafted Obi Toppin, didn't work out. They drafted Frank Ntilikina, terrible draft pick. Porzingis, they ended up trading him. He didn't want to be there. The players that they have are better than the guys that they've drafted, and that's a hard thing to do. So you have to give their front office a lot of credit. So now with what they have, they still don't have a center because they're not going to be able to keep Isaiah Hartenstein. Mitchell Robinson is not the guy in today's NBA to be able to take you to a championship. He's just not. What happens with Julius Randle? He is kind of a ball stopper. He's an ISO guy. It doesn't work in today's NBA. There are very few guys like that who can make it work. So do you keep him? Do you find a way to get him on the same page with the rest of your offense? Do you move him? How does that work? So you look at a potential starting lineup today of Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, and probably Mitchell Robinson. You've got Josh Hart coming off the bench. You've got Dante DiVincenzo coming off the bench. You got Deuce McBride coming off the bench. I'm sure there's another guy or two that I'm missing. But that is a very good team. And I look at the Eastern Conference. Are they better than the Boston Celtics right now? No. But who else in the East today is better than them? Also considering that they had the second best record in the East last year. And the only player that they've given up is a guy who was hurt for the playoffs anyway, and Bojan Bogdanovic. So they haven't given it. Isaiah Hartenstein won't be back either. So I think right now they are clearly the second best team in the Eastern Conference. They are not better than the Celtics. But what other maneuvers can they make? Can they get a better center? Can they add, what do they do with Julius Randle? I think they've got pretty good depth. So the question is, can they beat the Boston Celtics in a 7-game playoff series? And with OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges as their wings, probably the two best 3-and-D type wings in the NBA. There are other very good wings. I'm not saying they're the best, but for what they do, when neither one of them have to be your top or secondary scorer, I think they can. I wouldn't pick them. I don't think they would be favored, but they have a legitimate chance with as good defensively as they are, especially on the wings, to beat the Celtics. It wouldn't be easy, and I think they still have more to do. So with that being said, did you overpay for OG Anunoby with his contract? Yes. Did you give up too many picks 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the line from Mikal Bridges? Yes. Is it worth it? If they get a ring, it is.
Yeah, of course. Anything is. Anything is. I mentioned Leon Rose. I just wanted to give you some background. He worked for CAA for a long time. Creative Artists Agency, I think it is. He represented LeBron James for years for CAA. And at that time, Rich Paul worked under him. Rich Paul was able to get certified during that time and then went off and created his own agency under LeBron's auspices, basically. But here are some of the players. This is the kind of circles that this guy ran with, Leon Rose. Carmelo Anthony, Devin Booker, Joel Embiid, Rip Hamilton, Allen Iverson, LeBron James, Eddie Jones, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Aaron McKee, Victor Oladipo, Chris Paul, P.J. Tucker, J.R. Smith, Jonas Valanciunas. That's some pretty good players he represented.
He's a power broker.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, when you have players like that, you're accustomed to flexing your muscles.
Mm-hmm. Man, I can't stand Dolan, but I got to give him credit. You know, they bring in Rose, and it makes all the difference in the world. And now they're a team I want to watch because they're wildly interesting. They're fascinating.
Yeah, and they undoubtedly they had to pay him a bundle to get him there.
Yeah,
a bundle, because you can imagine how much money he was making as an agent. Now, he probably took a cut. He probably took a cut to go with the Knicks, but he's well paid. You can bet on that, to work and live in New York.
And of course he is.
Yeah. So give Dolan some credit for at least finally putting his money where his mouth is.
There's no question. You got to give him props for that. And Jalen Brunson is a stud. I love watching him play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many people did he win over during that playoff run with his toughness and his shot making at that size?
And he also has, for what he does, he's got a really friendly contract. And remember when the Mavericks didn't think that he could be the guy?
Yeah.
They've got Kyrie. They went to the finals. Great. But they made a mistake letting Jalen Brunson go.
It's impressive. Yeah, the Knicks.
But see, the other thing, too, is when you talk about, Leon Rose and the decisions, right? But before they signed Jalen Brunson, they were going to try and take all of these picks that they had accumulated and throw them at Donovan Mitchell. I like Donovan Mitchell, but the value versus production and how you would have gotten them, they're really fortunate that they didn't go get Donovan Mitchell.
I agree.
Because I like Jalen Brunson in his spot anyway better.
Oh, absolutely.
He's a better match for the coach, too.
Absolutely is. But now not only do you have Jalen Brunson on, $25 million a year, a very reasonable contract, now you are able to use those same assets that you were trying to get Donovan Mitchell for to go get Mikal Bridges.
You know what we need next year? We need a Celtic-Knick Eastern Conference final with both teams being healthy. That would be fascinating.
Somebody said to me yesterday, as soon as that deal came through on OG Anunoby, what time is the Knicks-Celtics Christmas Day game going to be?
Yeah, you know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I hate that someone has done something so well that I want to sit and watch the Knicks now. They're fascinating. And Thibodeau's got those guys playing hard. I can't believe it, Godfather. They respect him, and they play hard for him. Josh Hart's willing to play every single minute of every single game for him. It's amazing.
It was unbelievable the volume of minutes he played in the playoffs last year.
Oh, just wait till he gets it. Wait till Tibbs gets his hands on Bridges. Holy cow! You think that
dude doesn't miss a game?
I know, but you just wait. He'll play him 48 minutes every night.
Like Bridges has no idea. He thinks he knows, but he doesn't know what's in store for him. Do you think he can curtail some of his desires to chase every game during the regular season and play his starters a bundle of minutes, Godfather?
Yeah.
It's ingrained in him. He can't do it, can he?
Here are the game log year by year from Mikal Bridges, starting with his rookie year. 82, 73. Now, keep in mind that was a shortened season. 72, which was every game. 82. Then the following year, he played 83 because he was traded in the middle of the season, and then 82 last year.
Yeah, that's Karl Malone type stuff right there.
Yeah, that does not happen in this day and age. Dwight, you'd have better context on this. The idea that you have four players from the same college team that won a national championship, by the way, on the same NBA team, and they are all big-time contributors. How rare is that?
Oh, it's impossible. I mean, has it ever happened before?
I don't know.
I don't know that it ever has. I can't offhand. I mean, the only school I would think about would be UCLA, somebody collecting a lot of UCLA players. But
we know it hasn't been Duke.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Man, Jay Wright, he deserves, if the Knicks win a championship, I think Wright deserves a Knicks championship ring.
He does.
He does. He created that culture.
Yeah.
That's what blows me away. What does this say about Jay Wright and what he created at Villanova for what these guys are doing right now?
Yeah.
And they're all very similar in terms of their demeanor and their toughness and the way they approach the game.
Gritty, man.
I would imagine he's already turned down NBA jobs because he
Jay
can
Wright?
certainly, he can certainly
has.
get one if
He has.
Yeah, he can certainly have
every
one.
year his name pops up in those situations, but he's staying retired.
He's a guy that should be like in a catalog or some type of he should be modeling suits and stuff like that. He's too handsome to be walking NBA sidelines.
He on the sidelines, he would be
in a
the
sweatsuit.
second coming of Pat Riley.
Pat
I
Riley.
think a lot of Armani suits,
But they
things
don't
like
wear
that.
suits anymore.
Well, he would though.
Yeah.
That's all they
You're
need
not
is
getting
that
Jay
one
Wright in a
fancy
jumpsuit.
Dan. You got to get a fancy Dan to come back with a suit on.
That's true. I mean, coaches were very happy when they didn't have to wear suits anymore.
Can you imagine Jay Wright jumping into a jumpsuit, some type of sweatsuit, some Nike sweatsuit?
He'd look even more like a mob boss.
Gosh.
Tracksuit.
Get one of those velour tracksuits.
Yeah.
But yeah, the
An
Knicks,
Adidas one.
the Knicks are very watchable now. I kind of hate that, but it's cool. I mean, they are. It is what it is, man. Those guys play hard-nosed basketball. They were fun to watch during their playoff run. We got
Until
robbed.
everybody got hurt.
Yeah, and then Indiana wound up in the Eastern Conference Final. All right, there you go. That's the latest. Let's go out to the phones. Raider Mike. We got to discuss our golf date.
I figured that.
Raider Mike, my man, you in for July 4th, July 5th? What are you thinking?
Raider Mike.
He's out. Bye, Raider Mike. That's
Missed
a
his
shame.
chance.
And that's okay.
I mentioned Worldwide West. He is actually executive vice president and senior basketball advisor to Rose, William Wesley. Worldwide West. Google him sometime.
Boston, New York. So in the Western Conference, what do we expect? The top contenders? Denver's right back up there next year?
Oh, I would think so. Yeah.
Minnesota?
I think they traded Reggie Jackson away today. I think I saw that somewhere.
Denver?
Yeah, I think they did.
Because he had just opted in.
Maybe he opted in so they could trade him.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, look, I have not seen that.
Yeah, maybe. I might have been dreaming that, but I think I saw it
Reggie
somewhere.
Jackson.
Nuggets trading Reggie Jackson and picks to the Hornets.
Yeah.
The move frees up cap space.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're going after a free agent then, probably.
Yeah.
Reggie
They could
Jackson,
probably get one.
3 seconds.
Wouldn't
What
you
was
think they could attract somebody?
Denver?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still probably the front runners in the Western Conference. Yeah, absolutely, they can attract someone.
So their big money's to who? Jokic, Murray, and Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money going to Michael Porter Jr.
I'm looking at the free agents. Like, this is an alphabetical list. That's not going to help me. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who the best. I don't even know who the best free agents are this year. There aren't many. Paul George potentially.
Yeah, he's acted like one already. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
I mean, if he opts in, he's getting traded.
All right. Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, LeBron, Harden, DeMar DeRozan, Miles Bridges, Tobias Harris, D'Angelo Russell, Emmanuel Quickley, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Klay Thompson, Isaiah Hartenstein, Valanciunas.
There are no huge names on that list. I mean, LeBron, obviously, but he's going to re-sign. Tyrese Maxey's going to re-sign. Paul George, most likely going to be a sign-and-trade type thing. There are no names out there that are going to really change the landscape of the NBA by moving. It's just not there. As Jimmy Butler get traded, it's going to be trades that change things, not free agency.
Well, now that LeBron's got his kid on a good team, maybe he wants to go over to Denver and win one more title.
Right, there you go.
Shacker playing a little John Tesh.
Yeah.
Little foreshadowing for the NBA going to NBC.
Is this John Tesh?
It is. These broken wings and learn to fly again. Learn to live so free.
Thought it was Mr. Mister.
It is. It's John Tesh doing a remake on Mr. Mister.
Oh, okay.
This is the Muzak version of Mr. Mister, according to John Tesh.
From his Sax by the Fire album.
What, Sax by the Fire?
Yeah.
I would take a little Sax by the Fire with Connie Selica. I can tell you that. She can have as much sax as she wants. John Tesh, I can't believe he married her. That's amazing. Good work, John. Have we gotten word on the NBA TV deal yet?
Not official.
Did you think Connie Selica was hot back in the day?
That's two very closely related questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Didn't everybody?
You remember that show, Greatest American Hero, Shacker?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Have we gotten no word on the TV deals?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Huh.
So we're expecting.
He's probably waiting for
NBC,
the cycle.
Amazon.
Yeah.
And the Greatest American Hero. Nice work. And who's the other one? Oh, yeah, Disney. We're hoping for the fourth option, which is TNT, so we can keep our Inside the NBA.
Yeah.
I can only think of George Costanza's answering machine message when I hear this.
Yeah, I know.
You going to get a hold of one of them George Costanza bobbleheads or what?
I need one. Are they a thing?
Did you know the Yankees are doing one this year? The Yankees are doing one that's George Costanza as assistant traveling
I
secretary.
need that. I've got a bobblehead
Yeah,
collection
I just
at home.
asked
I
you if
need
you're going
that.
to get one.
But the Mets, I think, are doing one too. I think somebody else is doing one.
But I thought you were going to buy one of the Yankee ones.
No, I was going to buy the one with him riding the whale. That's the one I was going to buy.
I need some bobbleheads for my collection. Whose is this?
I have no idea. You can take it.
You can
though.
have that
Okay.
one.
You can
I've
have
got
whatever
that
you
one
want.
already. Yeah.
All right, we'll come back and talk to Raider Mike. I don't know what's going on here. It's like a menage a trois of bets. He owes Travis, but I owe Mike. I don't know how this is going to work out. We'll find out. All right, let's go out to the phones. Raider Mike is back. Raider Mike, welcome to the show, my friend. We got to pick our day for golf next week, brother.
It's July 6th. I already got the day cleared. By the way, I work for your team now.
Which team is that?
Walmart.
Oh, you do? You work for
Yeah.
Walmart?
Yeah, I'm in their trucking program, and anyway, it's just a weird dichotomy there. You know, I work for the Broncos now, but I'm still going to be Raider Mike, and I will never go to the other side.
Well, I respect
That's
that.
the way it is.
All right, hold on for a second.
All right.
So July 6th is the day that you want to play golf.
And I owe Travis a round. I forget the bet. It was so long ago. It was like 3 years ago.
Not on.
All
Shacker,
right.
turn my
You
mic on.
name the
There we go.
course and the time.
Okay, no, I've got the time. July 6th, 7:32, Forest Hills Golf Club.
Is Travis there?
7:32.
Am I buying him?
In the morning?
He's coming. My cousin's going to be the fourth.
No, Mike, this is for you and I.
Oh, it's just us. Oh, I wanted to give Travis his round.
Well, we will, but we'll have to do that at
Anyway.
a different time. Don't be so scattered
Okay,
when I talk
rock
to you,
and
dang
roll.
it. Come
When
on
the
now.
first number of the time is 7, I'm probably out.
You're
All right.
out, Trav.
Well, no, I don't know what's
I
going
miss
on.
my
that week.
Google Travis.
I miss you too, man. By the way, thanks for saying hello. Hi.
I've been trying for a while. Trav, you're a busy guy.
Not that
Now,
busy.
let's get to the other subjects. AI. Oh, God. I want Holy Toledo, Bill King. And I want Sean's. Those are the two.
You like Bill
all
King,
night,
Godfather?
all day long.
Love Bill King.
Big fan of Bill King.
Yes, in
Bay
all
Area
sports.
legend.
All
A's,
sports.
Raiders, baby.
I used to listen
No,
to
the
him.
Godfather knows these things.
I used to listen to him doing Warriors games. He was phenomenal. Rick
Dude,
Barry,
you-
corner, 28-footer, goes 26. Oh, okay.
What
I
was
like
so
that. I might have
cool
to use
is
that.
That's
you
a
could
good
get
one.
the games. You could get the games here
Oh, yeah. I grew up
if
listening
you were sitting
to
up high.
KGO, San Francisco.
Exactly. Godfather, now you make me feel a little younger. Now, lastly, Last Dance. I'm on episode 9. LeBron thinking he can sniff Jordan's jock. Just go away. It's done. The argument's over. Do your Bronny thing. I don't care anymore. I just don't.
Hey, Raider Mike, what type of
Yeah,
beverages
I'm
have you
so
been
sick
enjoying?
of the NBA, Chad.
Hey, what beverages have you been enjoying this afternoon?
Oh shit! I've only had one.
One big one.
All right, bye-bye.
If that big one is a bottle of something,
That's what I was thinking.
Yep, I had my finger ready because I knew that we might get a little bit dangerous there with Raider Mike. He was too excited, too excitable. How do you think
I
that
gotta tell
732
you,
tea time's
Chad,
going to treat him?
Your posse is quite a group that you got going there.
he
Good
might still
people.
be awake, Chad. So it might not be an issue.
It might just roll out from the night right under the chorus
Yeah.
and just get going.
He's been singing karaoke somewhere all night.
Hey, you guys have, I haven't started watching it yet. What do you guys think of the Clippers series?
I like it a lot.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I
What do you
haven't
think
seen
of
this
Lawrence-
week yet, but
I've only seen 3 episodes of it. What do you think of Lawrence Fishburne as Doc Rivers?
he facially kind of looks like him.
Yeah.
He's a little too thick for Doc in my mind.
a
I
little
don't see
bit.
that. And also, I've heard a lot about. They had that one practice where he's really chewing out all the
Yeah.
players. They said he never did that. I've heard from several people that he never did that. But it's really cool. I'm enjoying Kelly O'Coin, and Ed O'Neill is fantastic as Donald Sterling. Really good.
I haven't started watching it yet, but I'm going to.
You keep saying that, but
I got a lot of things going on, Godfather.
you never watched the Laker one, did you?
No, I didn't. But I didn't
Oh,
want to watch
man.
that one because I read the book, and the book is better than the show.
Well, I have no doubt about that.
Plus, I just got finished going through the entire series of 90210.
Oh,
And then
wow.
Justin
The
and I-
original or the new one?
The original. 10 seasons, and now Justin and I are going to have a breakdown on this show.
Of course you are.
We are, yeah.
You're going to hang out at the Peach Pit?
We are, yeah. Justin would do that with me, and so we're going to break it down, but it was kind of a homework project. I finally completed it, though. It was fun to go back through.
Never watched one episode of it.
Well,
Proud of it.
I know, but it's not even within your age range.
Oh, thank you.
And they were all in their 30s
It
when they
wasn't
were
a
in high
slam.
school.
I'm just saying it wasn't part of your wheelhouse.
You mean you have to watch it when you're in high school? Is that what you have to do? Or
I'm
what?
saying that if you were my age when the show came on, it would fit more of what was going on in your life. At that time, you're probably looking at that like, I don't need that type of stuff in my life.
Probably.
Well, big thanks to Travis Demers and Dwight James. Thanks to Godfather. I appreciate you.
Happy to be here with you, Chad.
Hey,
always a pleasure.
I missed you guys.
I missed you, Travis.
Yeah, Travis, it's great to have you in here.
And the Shacker's got his
Fun.
beanie cap off.
Another baseball guy in here.